Hello. Happy New Year. Hi.
Hello.
I feel overdressed when you're just casual with your dark. But here's the annoying part. It's like he still looks hot, and he's just wearing a dark blue shirt, and I'm just wearing this. Like I feel like a news anchor. Hello and welcome to the second episode of As a Reaction.
I wonder if my goal is actually up on.
Yeah, we're gonna check. Oh,
No, there's the redeem, but there's the
Take it off. Take it off. We have it.
Yeah, that's the redeem, but there should be another one where it should be a.
I don't think it's shown on mobile, but that's totally
Okay.
fine.
You see, it's close up, so I can double check things.
Alright, you can double check. Is it set up? Look at that beautiful face. But yes, welcome to the second session of As a Reaction, which is more or less a TTRPG space podcast where, we... you have to click start. You haven't started this yet.
So I haven't started it. Yeah, that's...
Hey. Yes, 25,000. Done.
Should be all good.
Yes, if you're wondering why there's a community challenge started, I believe it was Dark Tatai and Nair who instigated that they wanted Vetra's shirt off. So, I think that's why he's only wearing a shirt today. But yes, I was doing an intro of, this is like a very on-the-spot podcast where we're just, thank you, Phobo, for the first ever contribution. See, I told you, there is appeal to your...
Oh, damn.
To you not having a shirt on. But this is a second session of As a Reaction, where it is a TTRPG space centric podcast. We talk about real life stories that happen in the TTRPG space, things that happen in the table, despite us dealing with fictional. I love the last time the basement dwelling nerds. Despite us having, we're trying to enjoy like the fictionalized escapism that comes with TTRPGs. There is a real life horror story that comes with it when you're dealing with other human folk that play in this space, and we kind of react to the horror stories that come with it. I think the first session was really good. We reacted to the first story that inspired us to do this podcast, which was about, the Pick Me Girl. There was a lot of, and then a recent situation that happened in the TTRPG space where basically same kind of Pick Me Girl energy and just using the community. Like trying to turn the community against the person, and it backfired. So lots of things we've talked about it. You can catch it. It's highlighted over at Vetra's side of things, and he's eating a pizza right now. I can see that. I ate a dangerously good pizza. But yeah, before we start, I've been talking a lot, and
Yeah, you ate a pizza and you're still up.
I ate 2 pizzas. I'm still alive. I'm wired though. So I guess since it's actually we're doing this on New Year, like January 1st. I guess it's like looking back at 2024, what were your fondest moments in TTRPG? I know there's a lot, but if you can come up with at least 3 on the spot.
Let's just say a few of my IRL friends just absolutely fear one of my characters. Dune!
Oh yeah, when I revealed Dune in the IRL game, it was, you should have seen one of them. They got up and just stormed out. It was
They
beautiful.
were like, no!
It was beautiful. Yes. I've been actually enjoying IRL gaming. We've been doing Dungeons and Dragons over at Epic Games, which is over, really cool spot if ever you guys want to support local game shops. Yeah.
Epically Games.
Epically Games, sorry.
They can't go Epic Games because that's an actual
Epically. Sorry, my bad. So Epically Games. Try to support your local game stores. They're really cool. So shout out to them. But yeah, we've been doing a lot of Monday IRL games, and it was a perfect storm of just introducing people. Because there were the Salt Marsh. For those who know the hardcover Salt Marsh, it has lizard folk. So, and if for the uninitiated and have no idea, who the fuck is Dune?
Dune was one of my very first lizard folk wizards. He survived a TPK encounter, but he has been known to be a menace to a lot of sessions because he always told the truth, always asked questions, and he didn't step away from a fight.
Case in point, like
the thing is, he obeyed the law when they asked him to put things back or to follow them to the thing. He got into trouble most times because of his grave digging habits.
Yeah, I will attest to the doesn't back out from a fight, because from the last fight, you literally, I only missed you because you rolled a nat 20 on a deck save. I was twice. I hated that.
He is.
I was trying to kill him. Let me know. I tried to kill dude. He's just hard to kill. So, and then you just jumped down. I guess from that you just kicked. You dropped down to get the champion downstairs. It was so
he has now animated the body of a Fishfolk champion.
4 out of 25k. Yeah, someone's keeping count. Thank you, Dark Tatai. We're at 4k. Thank you for that contribution, Dark Tatai. The one who started it all is right here in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, so I guess Dune is one of your highlights. Do you have other 2 highlights in your TTRPG gaming last year?
I would say Rayla destroying the helicopter.
Okay, first off, fuck you. How dare you?
That anyway.
No! I mean, first off, it was like I shouldn't have waited for 4 turns to get the helicopter there. I was just like, it's like action scene. They take a while to get there. And there's somebody who can shoot at a freaking range and just took it down. I'm angry. How dare.
Well, isn't the only time Rayla had taken something out early on to basically stop its advance? In another one for Lancer, basically did an aimed attack and took out a cannon off of the main enemy that Nero sent at us.
Yeah. Lots of crits with Rayla. I'm surprised Samus breaking was not part of your bingo card. Samus breaking in the Pulp Cthulhu.
I was about to get that as the third thing.
Oh, okay. Because you mentioned 2 Lancer things. So I was like, oh.
2 Lancer? What?
Yeah.
No.
Rayla.
Rayla being... So basically...
Cyberpunk Red.
Dune, Rayla with her things, and then it was going to be...
Oh, okay. Because you mentioned... Note that Rayla is in Cyberpunk and in Lancer. So I thought there were 2 separate instances. I didn't know they were clustered together. So
that's my bad for not mentioning that. But you, as Dema has said, the third one being Sin in Pulp Cthulhu broke me and my character with what he did in one of the sessions just before the break.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that one time in D&D where I was a scrawny druid, like I was so useless. But then I had a baby Tarask and a baby black dragon with... First off, who is your DM? What level were you for you to have a baby Tarask?
Bruh. And a baby black dragon.
That is terrifying. But to the DM that allowed that, they're brave. Wow, baby Tarask. Gotcha. But yeah. For those, if you guys want to catch those like moments, I believe we have some of them. I think also New Orleans was in the earlier half as well. We only stopped around July, so there's a lot of things that happened.
There's a lot of things in New Orleans I can't really put into one sort of thing. Samus with all those fucking perception checks in front of one person trying to avoid it.
And then the katana thing.
The katana,
Bullshit.
Basically almost had head lopped off. He dodged that. He got his leg skewered by that.
Survived just a Chibisi, just breaking all your bones. Like, goddamn.
All his muscles holding his bones fucking together from being shot.
Talk about Australians, am I right? But yeah, there's a lot of things that happen. And I guess like if you guys saw my post over at Blueski, as well as Twitter, I did a snapshot for 2024, and I think it's also hard. I'm proud of you for being able to do it on the spot, choosing your top 3, because for me it's very hard. Because a lot of things, like imagine having to choose between 10 campaigns, 10 mini campaigns, a shit ton of one-shots, a lot of incomplete campaigns that are still ongoing. There's 10 complete ones. It doesn't count the ones that are still ongoing. I did a lot of TTRPGs. It's hard to pick. So it's like, I'm glad you could pick 3, but if I had to choose, like, it's super hard to choose. I think it's the most recent one with the Here Be Dungeons and Dragons, just replacing it over at Final Side. That's like one, because it became a campaign for some reason. I don't.
It is now becoming a campaign, yes.
How? Please. Like, I have a problem. Please. I have too many campaigns going on. Please. I'm just horrified because that was just supposed to be a one-shot. Snooze. Oh, thank you for snoozing the ad. If for those that just came back from the ads, welcome.
No ad should have popped up for them. It said ads in 2 minutes for them.
Oh, okay. Thank you for turning off the ads. That's awesome. But, yeah.
It snoozes them and puts them until later for at least another 15-20 minutes.
Oh, shit. Okay. Don't worry. We'll do some random talking between ads once we get notification.
Yeah.
Get notifications of ads. But yeah, I would say Here Be Dungeons and Dragons over at Finals game. I think that was like super fun, mixing Dungeons and Dragons and Monster of the Week into that mix and just knifing people. I think it just also the fact that I got knifed in Toby's game where we played Changeling the Dreaming. This was also last year. The plot twist of the title of the campaign being the guy that we're supposed to destroy, but is actually like just a guy just with flawed memories and stuff. It's just like, it's whimsical. The house that no one built, he's a guy named No One, Nemo, and that one just broke me in so many levels. Also, another personal one, also by Toby, shout out to Toby, is the Wraith game, where it dealt with death, and it was like Philippine Chinese based, and it's a very intimate story about dealing with the pressures of the typical Chinese family traditions of having to live up your best. And then like the character I played was somebody who was they felt like the good years were gone. High school was my best year and then college sucked, and then they became a teacher and then they die. So it's like it was such a good storytelling, especially it came from like home soil and being able to like speak in the local language and just like having the Chinese connotation. It's just like it hits different. At that I would know this. It's like growing up in a Chinese school, like having that culture of like the Filipino Chinese school, and then like having a story built around it was really nice. And yeah, those are my top 3. And then like of course the honorable mentions are Sokol, Secrets and Stakes, and Pulp. But
another one, which one was it? You had me, Sin, I think, Ark in it as well. No, because Dune. That was Dune. That was
Curseborn. Yes.
Curseborn,
Shout out to Onyx Path for letting me run the chaos of 2 different groups having 2 different storylines but somehow weave together. And I'm kind of sad to admit though, because my computer deleted the finale of the house. That's a sad thing. I regret to inform there's another missing episode of the cool fight with the house.
Another episode of where Dune almost died, but he.
Yeah. He just stood there, and the house missed him. I had a devastating blow, mind you. I was so ready to kill him. I crit
dodge roll again. But
I-
instead of dodging out of the way, he just like slipped into one of the cracks of the house and just like.
This beautiful storytelling. The story path system is great. Don't just die in any system. But anyways, we're gonna think of good vibes now. So those were their top
I guess it's Dune the Immortal now.
yeah, Dune the Immortal. I guess it's a weird segue to think about it when we try to segue from like the good memories of TTRPGs. Now we're gonna talk about bad experiences with DMs and players. It's just like
you call it a bad experience.
it's a frustrating experience. You just wanna, oh, the ad starts in 3 minutes.
Yeah, so.
Okay. So, I guess this is a horrible segue where I guess it's a start of a new year, but we can't deny that in the past, not just hopefully you didn't have any bad experiences with me as the GM, and if it was, I will work towards making things better.
No,
feedback.
I had no bad ones.
Okay. We're here to talk about bad experiences with GMs. So it's an interesting thing because the stories we got from the community as well is like trying to figure out what makes a bad GM. Like the experience itself, like you being mostly a player, what constitutes like this is like it would immediately go, this is a bad GM, this sucks, like this person does not know how to be a game master, or I'm having a bad experience, I'm not enjoying the game, it takes me out. So as a player, a full-time player, what are your like criteria? What are the few things that immediately go, yeah, that's a bad DM?
There's quite a few things that can make a bad DM, but the one thing that should always be looked at is whether you can actually have a conversation with them and whether they change after that conversation is the first and foremost point, because if they don't change, then that's when you get out. But I do know that a lot of the gamers, a lot of the TTRPG people are not socially adept and not very great at conflict or speaking up about problems. But I do encourage actually speaking to any DMs if you have any problems, and whether or not they actually change from them. Not if they just change for the first 1 or 2 sessions after and go straight back to what they're doing. That's just them basically being like, okay, they have a problem, okay, I'm gonna leave it for a few days, let it calm down, then go back to doing exactly what I'm doing, then they're gonna have to just deal with it. That would just be a DM where I just be like, nope, I'm getting the fuck out of here, fuck off. But for me, I haven't had any bad DMs at all. I've had the first DM where I was introduced to D&D, great DM, which led to me and 2 other players from that table basically being DMs for each other and anyone with our group. All of us keep dying around level 5, so we keep changing it up. But back on track with the anything that was for a bad GM for me to just leave. I would say a GM who basically like sees your character has their sole focus thing of like either being stealth or being charismatic, and basically shutting it down for pretty much every interaction, every sort of thing. So like, oh, you're disguising and going through a thing, you're disguised as one of the soldiers, and they just pick you out and just be like, start combat immediately. That's where a DM GM I would just be like, nah, I'm getting out of here. You're a fucking twat.
Oh, spicy. Oh, we have a couple of answers for our first question of what makes a bad GM. So Phobo, shout out to Phobo.
Yep.
He said if a GM's biggest struggle is dealing with normal players. I'm like what constitutes normal, because like for me my general normal in terms of like metrics for like they have to be introverts for one. They're introverted, and they're very there's a particular kind of normal for me in a sense that there are people who are like they're new to the TTRPG scene, and that's new players, that's newbie players where it's like they're first into like the culture thing. But the normal players is like people who are generally introverted and let's say they have they're like more into the mechanics of the game. They're really into the like they're what you would call the nerds of the group. That was what I would establish a normal.
So they're more of the mechanic side, but they're not GURPS.
No, not that. That's like just a different level of
that's a different level. Where
normal means not problem. Yeah, it's not problem players. It's like, you know, the people who are really into like the game itself. Like they've played it for a while. So those are like the normal demographic who would show up every weekend or like show up every week to play. It's like the ones who are, you know, familiar with the action economy. So like you wouldn't count like the new players, because like the new players are still starting out. This is just me making a distinction for like normal versus the people who are just like what you would call like people who are from like, let's say their background is writing. Like when I started as before I got into TTRPGs, I was a writer. So my background was I was into fanfics. I was writing AU stuff, you know, AO3 represent. So in that case, when I came in the TTRPG scene, which is Pathfinder first edition, I was considered a newbie. Like I was a newbie and fresh of like I did not understand the concepts of like I wasn't into the culture until it took me 8 years to establish like, yes, I am part of this. I've been doing this for a while. This is my hobby and interest. So this is my distinction for like the normal players. So the normal players are like more of the introverted. I say introverted because like we have to admit it. A majority of the people that are drawn to this game are introverts, and they play personalities or characters that, you know, outside of their usual personality.
And not to say that they're non-glued, but extroverted people also do play it because it allows them to be out there in different ways, or be able to join in with their introverted friends, because that's the thing. How does an introvert usually get friends? An extrovert finds them and brings them in.
Exactly. TTRPGs are a good way to mix a lot of personalities. That's the beauty of like TTRPGs. Like, you could be like strangers from different walks of life. And that's like the beauty of like when I tried community games and ran physical games back in Davao. Is that there could be there's a medical student who's going to join the table, and there's another like college kid, and there's an artist that joins, and they're like, or somebody that's a call center agent. They're all just in one table, but at that party it's like also different characters, so you get to see the different dynamics that come with the team because of different people. So yeah, and that's how the extroverts find the introverts through D&D. But yeah, also Dark Tatai said if a DM isn't flexible enough to adapt to the situation and sticks to their predetermined story, I sympathize with the fixed GMs. This is my case for fixed ones.
I don't see that as a bad DM necessarily.
It could be new. Like they could be new GMs. I sympathize for those like people who start with starter packs or like starter kits, or like new GMs who are like, I'm gonna stick to the ruling. They're not comfortable with the system enough to play around with it.
And then again, for some people, they've only known being a GM really, like, oh, group of friends want to be a DM, be in D&D. Okay. Do we know anyone who's played D&D? No. Okay, which one's going to DM? Probably the most introverted of the lot will probably get put as the DM or something like that, which puts a lot of pressure on them. What else? The other thing would be, depending on how they've actually lived as well, is like they have to plan for everything, and if anything goes outside that plan, they panic. If anything changes, you're looking at me like I'm playing someone else.
I feel called out. Look, I'm a very over prep DM, but I allow for things to happen. But I do panic internally when plots go out the window. I'm just like, am I prepared for catching the free fall that a lot of my players tend to do? I think it's
I guess the hardest thing would be like, okay, here's the plot, here's the story. There's this one goblin on the side that the players just treasure and try to keep around and try to make a story out of that. That's probably the most general story you hear out there of players losing the plot of the story and the DM doesn't know what to do.
yeah.
I've forgotten what I was about to say.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just like right now, going back to what makes a bad GM. A lot of people talk about like the inflexibility. You mentioned about the fact that I think I want to zero in on your possible like bad DM style, in which it's the lack of like what do you call this? Lack of arbitration, like judging. I don't know what the proper word is. When you're the DM, you are like the one that's not only managing the worlds, but you're managing the table.
Yeah.
And you want to put table rules. Like this was like safety tools were put down later down in the line. That wasn't there when it was in Pathfinder, unfortunately. Yeah. But safety rules are super important, in which you allow people to do what they want, but the moment it goes out of order, like there's an action that's out of order, you as a DM, if you let it slide after somebody brings it up to you, that's a communication error. That to me is a DM error of like somebody brought up to you that there's something wrong with the game, or there's something like the feedback, and you do nothing about it. That's when it becomes a problem. The lack of activity, just because of, oh, this is a social dynamic, oh, this is a game, like this is just a game, it's not my problem if somebody's gonna be, I'm just gonna focus on the game. And that to me that makes the bad GM bad, because you're not doing anything to make the experience on the table better, because you're letting things happen, especially when the player trusted you and informed you, hey, do something about it. Because in a way, the GM's slightly above board, it's not slightly higher than the players. That doesn't mean they're better than the players. It's just that in terms of the game dynamic, they're the ones adjudicating. They're the ones, saying what goes, what's allowed in the table.
Now, not to say that when there are times like there's conflict with a ruling and the DM's just like, okay, let's just do this and sort it out later. That's actually a good DM there. If it's like, okay, we have no idea how to do with this, we're not going to spend an hour trying to figure out the rule on that. But yeah.
It eats up time. I think it's like there's a bit of like what makes like the GM bad is like wasting the time that could have been spent to make a story together, or having a good, I think a lot of people feel that frustration. I think one of the things we can bring up actually is like, Phobo said, in general story, GMs don't understand the medium of RPGs. I think that's a difficulty as well when a lot of people start with, there's a lot of systems though that treat TTRPGs like film, where it's separate. I've tried those games where it's like you are the camera shot, the story, so it's like it's more improv, there's less dice, there's more theater, so it kind of blurs the gap of like what is RPG and stuff versus the standard fare OSR, the standard fare D20 games, where it's like there is a dice involved, the dice dictates your actions, versus it's mostly improv, so it's more theatrical. Then people.
And the thing is, it's not just GMs either; it's players as well. Either they come from watching a whole bunch of action movies or different type of movies, and this is how they see things going, and they feel like it should be right and stuff. But then they have to make rolls and they're bad, stuff like that. I know there are people who've come from like just playing games all the time, like RPG games, and they think, okay, TTRPG is going to be exactly the same. They try to do everything.
Yeah, they try to do it like in the case of a lot of people played Baldur's Gate, and then they tried 5e, and they tried to think of Baldur's Gate logic that comes with
and that's understandable, because Baldur's Gate does have D&D logic, but it also has 3.5 or 3.
But they have some. It's actually 5e with some 3.5 logic that they coded in, and for the ease of like, because the medium Baldur's Gate first and foremost is a video game, so they have to code everything. So
Exactly.
they can't allow for wish spells in the fucking game. I'm just saying that's just
That's why there's a level cap at 12, I think.
yeah, it's just like there's just reasons where it's much those kinds of flexibilities can't be quantified in code. That's why they only limit it to certain things.
Because as soon as you start reaching level 12 and above, you start getting the world-breaking spells,
Yeah.
which can do large area effects,
Yeah.
affect multiple people at once,
Yeah.
and it caused a lot of problems between different bits of coding in one area or different areas, which could cause breaking the game.
Oh, this is interesting from Phobo. And this is Phobo's opinion, where
Yeah.
TTRPGs are not film. They are also not improv. They aren't even narratives, which is very hard for people to comprehend. Anyone using film terms to describe an imagination game really doesn't get it. That's interesting. That's an interesting take because again, I've tried so many TTRPGs. Like this is an interesting take from somebody who plays a lot of TTRPGs because I've been introduced to different forms that it takes a while for me to get it. Like I've tried City of Mist with the tag system. There was also Praxis Protocol, which is each player is like a director that directs the scene, so it's very improv and there's somebody that guides. So but they still put it under tabletop role playing because you're playing a character archetype and there's like checklists that you have to meet during the scenes and there's like +1 -1 point system that goes with it, so there's still the element of RNG in it. So I do understand if we're strictly going for like the D20 system of like it's more tactical, it's its own genre. I would kind of see where Phobo's coming from. But I've also been introduced to a lot of people who do a lot of TTRPGs who have these kinds of interesting setups of like the like Praxis Protocol or there was another one that I forgot. This is mostly introduced by Toby, by the way. So if you guys are interested with those kind of weird TTRPG style, which is like kind of leaning on like players are directors and they do a lot of talking. It's a lot of improv. So unfortunately, there's a lot of improv there. I do understand if it's coming from somebody who played Pathfinder 1E. It was a whiplash for me. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And like somebody who played City of Mist, it's so hard. Like the tag system. I guess when it goes more descriptive, this is why I lean more on there's this soft and crunchy scale.
Yeah.
If I were to play, I'm used to crunchy systems. I'm used to 4E fantasy. I'm used to 1E. That's why there's this like soft like with terms of World of Darkness, it's very descriptive. It's very like there's limited numbers, but there's also the number system that OSR provides and stuff like that. So I get why some people who just settled with 1E would be like, no, this is its own thing, and I get that.
Exactly. And don't get things wrong as well. There are people who will describe what they're doing and like match it with a film to sort of get a description of what they're doing for how they want to try and do things. Some will try and be like, this is how it should be and it should go this way, and that's where Phobo's right on, where they aren't even part of it. But there are some that describe it like, because a lot of my recent characters are a lot very militaristic, very coded that way, where it's basically I gotta try and bring in real world military tactics and how they do things to sort of describe on how he goes through. Now is it, and then I leave it up to the roles. That is basically describing film way or realistic ways into a game, but you leave it up to the roles to see how it goes. So there's a yes and a no on that for me.
Yeah, I would say for me it's interesting because like example, tabletop cinema. If you guys haven't followed, really cool guy Mikey. Mikey is he's trained in the art of cinema. Like he's a
Yeah.
cinematographer, and he like when he does play the let's plays on video games, like he explains like the cinematography and why certain angles are that way. And then when I play under Toby's table, he describes it like episodic, as if you're like doing a supernatural show, or like in teaser, we're doing The Walking Dead, a zombie TTRPG. And knowing how Toby plays, it's gonna be very like, it feels like you're watching a series. If you've seen, there's been a lot of people who do a lot of describing, and like POV shot, it's like the shift scene is like immediately the camera turns over to the other player where there's scene, and he paints the scene as if he's like painting the entire thing. So it's viable, but for somebody who's like, let's say if I play Warhammer, I just want to know what the world is, what do my roles dictate, and the numbers dictate that system. How are the magic winds like in Warhammer? How are the magic winds? Are they fucking me today? Roll for wind. Is the gray winds good for me? Oh, it's bad today. I can't cast spells.
What, are you playing a psycho?
No, a gnome with gray magic, so I'm a gray wizard. But anyways, I understand when the numbers or the crunch takes precedence over the descriptive. It's to each their own gameplay, and
There is sometimes where players will be like, can I do this role? And depending on the role, I want to describe how the character goes through.
yeah, which is a fine line.
It's very rare to actually see players like that, because basically it's also a GM trying to
there's a lot of weight of the GM to describe everything in a sense.
there's a lot where the GM basically describes everything and has things in the background that players don't know, so having another player try and describe depending on their role,
Yeah.
it probably has to be something where pretty much they already have all the information in the area.
Yeah, I think that's also why the World of Darkness storyteller system, I love the mix of this amount of dots puts you in this scale of the, like when you read the full book, like example 4 dots in resources puts you in this kind of scale, or having a high strength standard puts you in this like Olympian athlete level. So it helps with the describing of the scene because it tells you how many dots are there. And that's also, if you actually, if people read the 5e books, they also describe like, oh, a person with strength 19 or con 19 is like this, like that. So it helps quantifying numbers, and the description helps ground the players as well, versus like, okay, we'll leave it to the player to describe, because not everybody's gonna be like, that takes a lot of skill to do a lot of like describing, and and it's frustrating, it's painful. And like okay, I keep saying City of Mist, I'm sorry for, I've played City of Mist, it's just the tag system confuses the heck out of me when it's too much like there's too much flexibility that it's not grounded on a number. I'm just like, what is, so yes, I will add a +1 to this dice, I will give it d6, I guess, because it kind of fits in that gray area of it can be this. So it's like, it frustrates me. That's why I like the mix of like having solid numbers to like, and you need to hit a certain success. Like there's still a bit of crunch, a little bit of nom nom.
But don't always base things off the numbers that are seen there. Like going back to the lizard folk wizard Dune, he had a negative to charisma, yet he was the very talkative up front, and
I think it's like also there's a difference between like the player play style too, because it's like, I don't know, it's like you kind of get lucky with a lot of rolls too. So
even though he had a -1 and always telling the truth, I rolled above 15 every time for a charisma check.
Yeah. So hey Breezer, sorry I didn't get to your comment. He said it's also why this spell isn't included. I think this he was talking about in relation to us talking about Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Hello. They said the game would have taken twice as long or something if they had. Yeah, because a lot of people
the spell magic, in a whole bunch of areas, and
yeah, that's why they don't have that spell.
Spell magic on a magic wall or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess like we'll zero in on the. I guess you have a good point as well when you mentioned doing like not all stats. So this is where like the GM's role of like using the system to heighten the character backstory. Yes, these are the set numbers, but what do those numbers define the character and what qualities do they do? Let's say you did put a -2, but because of the constant actions of your character, there's this thing on Pathfinder where it's like circumstantial bonus, where they give it because they've been constantly acting on it, they get a +2. Or like in a storytelling thing where they get a feat after doing some storytelling, they get a status because they interacted with an NPC. So it's very action driven. So you reward players.
For different things in that system.
Yeah, so even if they had a -2 in charisma, they still talk. They still engage with the NPCs. So there's just a lot of burden in terms of the DM. Like, as somebody who's DM'd for a while,
Trying to keep
yeah.
rules and
Yeah, I would say I'm not like all perfect. Like, it's kind of, I feel bad when people go like, "Oh, you're the best GM," or like, I have my flaws too, in a sense that one of the flaws I have is let's say in the inflexibility part, when I give so much to the players and when they say, "Oh, I'm not feeling the vibe of the game." So I'll share like a story of like what happened last year. One of the games I had was a supers game. And
Denma doesn't kill enough. She tries.
I mean, player characters I actually have, and that group, by the way, is like the group that I run with. Their characters always die. So it's like, oh, this is gonna be the run now where we're gonna die, and it's not seen most times, but I've killed players, and that's not a pride something I would say. It's just, oh, don't get me wrong, I do get kill player characters, but it hurts me and it hurts them, and I guess I need to kill more. I don't want to do that. Like, it has to be like, there has to be reason for the deaths. Like, the players have to do reckless abandon, and I did everything I could to, or their luck is just too insane that I can't.
The amount of times she's almost tried killing my characters, and they just walked without a scratch.
Yeah, but just to explain, like, me as a way, as this is for me is growth. When I was running a supers game last year, one of the struggles I had was first off, time differences. And despite the check-ins, like, you know how I do it with games, is like, after the game, "Hey, you guys are okay? Did you guys..." I do this privately because I don't want to take too much time, especially when you're dealing with streamers.
Yeah.
They have a time schedule where it's like, they will only tell you like a day before, like, "Oh, we're good for this game. Oh, we're gonna be..." Like, especially if you're a planner in advance. One of the inflexibilities I have, and I don't think I have to learn to like be understanding of it, is when you want to introduce the game to a certain demographic. Let's say I want to introduce it to video gamers.
Yeah.
I want to introduce TTRPGs to like that space. Their mindset is like, you have to understand their differing mindsets. I think it's an error in my part to expect that they will have the same level of knowledge or appreciation or love or interest as people who have joined me in TTRPG games, versus somebody who's from the video game thing. They expect video game logic, they expect comic book logic, and then I try to explain it to a TTRPG space, like, no, you roll for these. If you roll, it's okay, it's a fail forward, you gain experience. Failing rolls, I don't think I explained well that failure is okay. Because to them, as a video gamer,
failure means die.
Failure means you die. You start over. Oh my god, I suck.
Now that is right in a few cases, but if people have been watching Final Traumatic streams for Monster of the Week, Monster of the Week is a fail forward system. Where basically, you fail a roll, you get an experience point. Get 5 failures, get 5 experience points. Level up. I guess it is actually hard to explain that sort of system to even some of the TTRPG players, because it's always like, you kill things, you get XP, or you finish you reach a certain milestone and level up.
Yeah.
Whereas Monster of the Week is you fail a few times and level up.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing isn't for everyone. They don't
Yeah.
want to fail, which Monster of the Week actually has luck points.
Yeah, and not every I played a version of it, which is Mask, which is a super game.
Yeah.
And it was tough. It's tough to reconcile for me when you dedicate time. I think this goes out to all the DMs and the GMs, where they spend time to prep their notes, to prep their map, to prep everything, get into the headspace. Whenever we run games, especially me, I run way too many games. I have to be in the headspace. Every game, I have to be on top of things. I have to know the story, and then when players ask for input, I'm able to give lore and stuff. Imagine, I guess it's a mix of things where they were streamers, they were in a different time zone, and immediately on such short notice, oh, I didn't feel the game anymore. I don't feel TTRPGs. Let's just drop this. And I'm just let's just, and they were just going, let's just continue for the sake of, and I was like, I'm not gonna waste my time for this.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to waste my time. I think it's more of the frustrations. I try to be understanding on a time construct thing of but you already adjusted time to I was the one who adjusted it. It was their nighttime, it was my morning.
Yep.
And there was a lot of things where I wish I knew this sooner, not on the hour when we're about to do stuff. It's rude to the DM, it's rude to the
other players,
but it's also me understanding it's hard when people are in a certain, you try to find a middle ground. I think that's one of the, I guess that makes me I don't know if it's a bad DM, but it's something I need to work on. I know I'm not perfect in terms of trying to find middle ground for people, and I always try to find a way to bridge that gap and be understanding with time. But the moment time and commitment's gone,
from that standpoint, it is their fault. They didn't give you I'm not feeling it because as you said, at the end of your sessions, after you end the stream, you're like, hey, how's everyone feel? Is there anything to improve on, or is there any favorite moments that you had?
I think it was me just in retrospect. I feel bad that I felt blindsided as a human being. I was shocked. Why didn't you tell me this when I was putting an open forum with the groups? And I have to understand, some people prefer to talk privately. I'm always for a GM approaches you. The thing that frustrated me is just the time window in which I wish you told me sooner. Not when we're about to I'm about to pull the curtains. You've seen how I am when it comes to running games. No matter what mood I'm in, the show must go on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating when it's an hour before, it's game time, I'm gonna be a DM and stuff like that. Oh, I'm sorry for sure, I'm not feeling it and stuff like that. That's when it punches me in a sense that I'm not flexible for that.
And then stuff like that is a major mood killer too, which basically your mood will be down, which means your focus and your enthusiasm for a game, which does envelop the story even more if you're enthusiastic yourself, that goes down with it as well.
Yeah.
So that's probably something, and it's not your fault, it's another player, and it's the person's fault who basically left it last minute to basically fuck up the night. Not just you, for the other players too, and anyone else who's waiting for the stream.
Yeah, so thanks for that, because for me it's always I feel I could have done better handling that kind of surprises, because life comes with surprises.
Did they say that they were going to be in this session just for the sake of it?
Yes.
I would have been if you're not feeling it, fuck off. If you don't want to be in this after this session, just fuck off. You could have done it within the entire week coming up, and then the DM can adjust things for the other players, let the other players know that it's okay, this person has decided to drop out. I'm not gonna delve into anything on why. But here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, and I think because the way I feel like the reason why I feel like I'm the bad DM is because I was vocal with my, like, I won't lie. I told them I won't lie. I feel blindsided and I feel like this is an insult to my time and my commitment.
Yeah.
And because of that, they completely removed, because like the thing is I do guest streams. Like I'm not always streaming in other channels.
Yeah.
The fact that they unlisted all of it right after that conversation was also a slap to the face on mine, because it's like I was the one who did the stream, like behind the scenes. I was the one who did the overlays. I was the one who streamed on their end. I was the one who set up everything. They just needed to sit and play.
Yeah.
I literally made it a point, like, I want to hold your hand. I want to introduce you to this world. We're going to do this really cool thing. And they delayed it for a year. And then suddenly, oh, we're not feeling it. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to sit there for the sake of it. It's like, I spent time on this. And the added slap is just, they unlisted everything.
Yeah.
That to me was like, I felt like I did something wrong. To me, it was like, should I have waited for myself to calm down and be like, it's okay. Like, or thanks for letting me know. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I said, this blindsided me. Because I went straight to, like, this is a ruining of my time commitment. Should I have said it better? Like, that's what I'm thinking of, like, this would have been a good connection still if I handled my reaction better. But that was just like an hour before the stream. And
Exactly.
so it's like, for me, I feel like I could have done things a lot better. I'm no saint. I'm no perfect GM. I'm still human, and I will be vocal when I told, like, hey, do we have a game today? And no one told me a week in advance. Please just inform me at least 24 to 48 hours in advance if you guys want a game. Please, I need prep. I'm a prep GM. You can't just sneak up on games like that. I will freak out. I already freak out with prep games. So it's just, for me, on my headspace, and just so that I can deliver good games to people on the table, I need to prep. I need at least advance notice that I need to be mentally there.
Yeah. And we're gonna go back on track of things. And Fraser's here saying that some people just play TTRPGs just like a solo game and forget that it's a group session.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And the thing is that yes, there are people like that, but there are sometimes when they do make a character that does solo. Me in particular, I do create a lot of solo type characters. But I do try to go back and team up with the group. There are times where it just like goes off solo, like self-sacrifice or stealth mission, which you don't bring an entire group for, because then it's easier to spot and more chances to fail. But the ones that actually do just see it as just a solo act, they want everything, they want to do everything themselves, and won't let anyone else do it.
You still play your solo character as part of the group. Yeah. No, you still play your solo character as part of the group, which is a lot of things that you do as...
Yeah. As you said, Fraser, I still play the solo character as part of the group. I do play a solo character that will be solo, but then start bringing in the group more and more, or being a part of the group, or asking, or at a point will ask for help. I think that's one of the things when solo players actually evolve, in a sense. They actually start to ask for help. And Phobo's one.
You are trying to do too much. That's a sign of a bad GM. Make players work for their game. I think it's more like, this is like a nuanced thing. Because for one, you're trying to introduce people to a system. And I think it's less about making them work for the game versus I tried to be accommodating in a sense that it was their new system. And they had no proper setup to do TTRPGs, and I always offer that to them, like, hey, let's do an overlay for your stream and all that. Like you don't have to do anything, you just have to sit there. There's a lot of GMs who do that kind of like pro GM services kind of thing. And the one thing that threw me off is just that the time commitment that was just like before the stream. So it's not even the game itself, it's just their commitment to actually show up in the game, and they just tell me before it's like, oh, I'm not feeling it, is I think it doesn't really, like, I do understand that doing too much might be, I mean, in your opinion, a bad GM, but this is also a different case of like you're still introducing people. You don't just like, you don't throw in the book and tell people read that book and get an understanding of the game. You walk them through the system, have them play the game, and
Yeah, because you throw a book at them and tell them to read it. They got you got three types of people. There's the one that will be like not read it at all and get there at the session and be like, hey, can you just tell me what I need to do? There's those ones. Then you have the other ones where they'll read a bit, get confused, and not enjoy it because they have to read. Then there's the third one, which will probably read everything and then be rules lawyer to the point where you don't want to play it anymore. So let's check Fraser's message.
Yeah.
One of the session 0 messages I set up for the club I started at uni was that people have to remember that they are not the main character of the campaign. Share the spotlight and respect other people at the table, including the DM, as they are there to have fun too.
I will tell you right now, Fraser, that wording is actually, we have this like, it gives me fond memories because we had this workshop in Davao when I was helping run the community group Dudes and Dice. We had the Way of the Dude, and the one who did the workshop was Jasper. May he rest in peace. He was one of the pillars of that community, and we did workshops on like how to be a good GM, the Way of the Dude, and that's exactly what his wording was like. You're not the main character. Share the spotlight, and the DM is there to have fun too. And he always said like, how to handle different, like he did a really good workshop on like handling different personalities. There'll be personalities that are strong and like, you know, they talk a lot, they're on the table, they're excited.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones that are quiet, they won't take actions, they're a bit more passive. He taught like, how do you handle those kinds of people? And it was like, it gives me fond memories when I saw that wording, because that's how Jasper did his workshop. And to this day, I still use his mantras for when I run games, where it's like, the spotlight is for everyone. It is always a group game. People forget that you're playing with people, unless you're doing a solo TTRPG, which I would also recommend. Call of Cthulhu has a lot of solo RPGs. If you guys want to try that, there is a thing called solo TTRPGs. They've been evolving, they've been doing more things that accommodate for people who may not like a group setting and want to do a more solo game. Yeah, you could actually do like a D&D module that's solo. Like, you're the player, you're the DM, you do everything yourself.
That actually sounds quite interesting to actually look into, and probably
you can do it yourself, because like Jasper did it a couple of times with like real modules, real 5e modules that he was just reading, and he made it. Okay, they would tell you to make this character, and you read through the prompts, roll your dice, and see how far you get through the module.
Do you think you could actually send a few of those links out?
Hey, I got you interested.
Yeah, I'm interested because it might be something that I could actually, that I might actually stream myself,
Yeah,
actually doing, and actually introduce some solo TTRPGs out there. Because what you see mostly is the group TTRPGs. This is the first time I'm hearing of solo TTRPGs.
Oh my god, there's I've been wanting to do solo TTRPGs in terms of the horror, but I'm a coward. And I like group play. I like dragging friends to play with. Playing with myself, that's for someone else.
Yeah, you heard this, everyone. She likes playing with herself.
No, I prefer. Anyways, we're going.
So the Phobo says,
Yeah.
I'm not actually considering you a bad GM. I'm saying that GMs burn themselves out trying to do everything for the game, which is very much you, and you do burn, and I do see you burn yourself out with it.
I'd clip that if I was in the middle of other things. No, Fraser, no.
Don't worry, I'll go through and clip it.
No.
Either that or Phobo or Tate we'll clip
No,
it
no,
and
no,
just
no,
send it to them.
No, we're good. We're good. Yeah. Shots fired. I love prepping so much, and I love bringing joy to people. There would be times that's the reason why this year, in 2025, I'm learning to pace myself. Also, me. I've set up so many campaigns this year, but I'm learning to pace myself. And when I think last year was the year I learned if I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it. I will actually put things down. It's like if I'm like I don't like I've done things all the way up to 2023 and mid 2024 where it's like the show must go on. There were like instances where I'm like in the middle of like a big move or like IRL stuff. I'm not mentally okay, but I immediately put on the work mode and just run games. I think that's also a way for coping, but I do admit that I do like prepping to the point that I just want everything good for the players. I want pretty maps, I want all the characters, I want the NPC cards to be nice. I want everything pretty and prepped. So that's me. Oh god. But don't clip it. Anyways,
I'm clipping it.
Stupid Korea. Yeah. Yay. No clipping. But
I think Korea's sort of banned it for now because of I think it was Johnny Somali sort of stuff.
I don't know. Oh, I know there was Fobo mentioned it before. I forgot what it was. But yeah, I think those are really good conversations on like what makes a bad GM. One of the things I think that was brought up, which this is where we bring up the story now. That was you get to read it. We'll have some fun reading time. Thank you, by the way, for people who are engaging with us in chat and the people who are openly sharing their stories, especially during the first session. We love to hear from you. You feel free to access to do upload servers for Twitch friendly. Oh, no. Oh, I'm glad you're still here and engaging with us despite that limitation. We appreciate that. I gotta find.
I mean, that's why there's VPNs and stuff like that. But yeah.
Okay. So, one of the things, since we've talked about, I think a lot of things that we're touched with being a bad GM, I think is also the fact that you have to make your players work for it. You don't have to overexert yourself, and then there's also the fact that there's people who overprep and those who don't prepare well, especially with the expectations of the players.
Yeah.
So I think this is a mix of me. I'm forgiving when it comes to dungeon puzzles. I've fucked up a lot of them in Pathfinder. I've also used monster templates that made them hard to kill that my players hated me for it. I made Kabunari of the Iron Fortress vampires using a certain template. I forgot the monster template in Pathfinder. I slapped it on a zombie. They became hard to kill. They had damage reduction, regen, and their armor was 23. They were like, fuck you, why did you make this? I was like, you guys are all murder hobos. And then they got mad because it wasn't a good fair fight, and it was a horde of those kind of. I wanted to give stakes. They were in a train. The train was running with all those, and the only person that could hit them was the NPC. I saw where the pain points were, which is you have to understand what your players can do. You don't make it too easy for them. You don't make it hard for them.
But the hard thing is being able to challenge the players without making it too hard or too easy, because if you have players who are basically murder hobos and they're just like, this is too easy, this is too easy, this is too easy, and then you give them something hard, it's like all of a sudden they're just attacking you for being a bad GM. It's like, no, you're pretty much trying to match to them. And then again, if they're murder hobos, there's probably a few cheaters in there too. Probably.
Yeah. Pathfinder's built different because the one I played with, they were just really munchkins. So lesson learned as a new GM. That's you just what?
Fraser. First she's talking about playing with herself, and now she's talking about not making things hard on our players.
No. Please have mercy. I know I have a way of words, but that's not what I meant. Oh my god. But yes, I try. Well, and then it is hard for my players sometimes, especially with the emotional damage department. That I can at least in terms of storytelling, I know how to to whirl things around and use their backstory against them. Yay! But in terms of combat, I still need to. My God. God damn it, Fraser. Anyways, shout out to Fraser. Thank you, Fraser.
Love you, Fraser.
Okay, you get to read our first ever entry from the lovely folks who sent their bad GM story, and we can assess what were the pain points, what made this a bad GM interaction. Here you go. You start here.
Okay.
Alright, get ready for story time.
Do we tell them who it's from?
Yes, you may. It's our resident Phobomancer.
Yep, this is your story, Phobomancer. I played with a fresh DM in 5e. His level 9 homebrew adventure was a tournament with several rooms. It was a series of poorly designed puzzles with riddle hints. God, I love those riddle hints. Now, when you start playing a lot of things, you start to learn that there are a whole bunch of different answers to riddles.
Yeah.
But you got the ones that, the GMs I don't like are the ones who aren't flexible with those answers.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of a riddle off the top of my head that has the, same answers, but, or different answers to the same question, but,
Yeah.
I think there was something where, like, the answer is glass, but the other, there was like two other answers where it could be, water and air at the same time. But trying to explain that to someone who's tight-knit on their answer, and like some people who, and a lot of people, they're not good with riddles. And for some storytellers, it's like, okay, figure out the riddle, and it's like, can we roll an intelligence check for our characters to see if they get the riddle or know the answer to the riddle? And the DM would probably say no. That'd be pretty bad, pretty bad DM there. Because like sometimes it's just like, could we get a hint? Could we get something? Or just over time, just our characters just figure out the answer and move on. Yeah, we'll continue with this. The first puzzle was just a guy saying, "Entertain me" to get the correct path info. The suggested answer was kill a party member. That's already a bad one. That's already bad.
Sacrifice, there needs to be a lead up to it, not just like from the get-go, kill somebody that's a player. Like, level 9 too? Did, like...
I'm sorry, level 9 also takes quite a bit of prep to actually build as well.
Yeah, I know, it's painful. And like, okay, what entails, like, death? Or can somebody slap death ward and they drop to 0 and does that count? Or do you want actual bloodshed? There's the answers unclear, and that one thing I hate as a DM is like the killer DM kind of mindset of like, I'm gonna kill the players. It's like, you pose challenges. You want to kill a character, but you don't want to like ruin their fun in a sense. You know.
Yeah. And don't leave something so vague. Like, when you think of entertainment, it's like, okay, you put on a show for someone, or you do a trick, or you try and tell a joke. The being suggestive with the answer being kill a player, being the vague answer or vague suggestion is, I'm sorry, pretty shit. And very first room of a game of a one shot, don't do that. Don't.
That's a big no.
Because one, that other player is not going to have fun for the rest of the session. Why the fuck are they there?
Yeah.
You've just wasted 3 to 4, even for some people who play D&D for 8 hours, you've just wasted their time. They go either that, or they're just going to leave after that and be like, they're going to ask, can my character come back? No? Okay, I'm fucking off. I mean, when the DM feels like they're playing against the players instead of with the players, then that's a sign of an incompatible DM for the party.
I guess like just for like a caveat,
He's
if-
grabbing a drink as well, so he's
no,
probably
no,
not.
no, it's just for a general PSA
Yeah.
for like players and GMs. If there's one thing I learned in the many years, many years, you know, there will be a group that is for you. You try not to. This is why, like, that's one of the reasons why I immediately like did not bother to finish the game, because the moment I sense like people are just sticking around for the sake of, or they're not feeling it, I don't want to waste my time. And it's not, I don't want to say it's any fault against them beyond the fact that they only told me an hour before, or like at a such short notice. The only thing is that there will be players for you and there will be GMs for you. If you don't find a first group, you try to make it as impartial as possible when you do the separation of like, oh, I can't run games anymore, we're not a good fit. I hope that's okay. The one thing I find problematic both on a player and GM side is the moment that open door policy of, if we're not vibing, if we're not, my play style, my GM style is not mixing with your player style, it's okay. We can walk out, shake hands on it. Like, to them, that isn't a personal attack to them as a person. And they're like, no. There can be different styles of, like, you can vibe with another GM and not vibe with me, and that's okay. This doesn't have to be drama filled. This doesn't have to be fucking high school where it's like, oh, we don't mesh. Oh, we're not vibing. It's okay. We can find a different group.
Yeah.
That's, a lot of people don't have that proper maturity and conflict resolution, in which if you guys aren't like meeting eye to eye in terms of a hobby, it's like, hey, we don't see eye to eye. Hey, my play style is different from your GM style. I don't like too descriptive, I want more crunchy. Or I don't like crunchy, I want more whimsical. That's fine. That's why there's first sessions, there's first tables, and that's that. Shake hands on it. Not a lot of people do that kind of practice of like, it's okay. You will find your GM. Players will find their GMs and GMs. I actually got that motto from somebody I didn't vibe with. Like, oh, we're not seeing eye to eye. Like, for me, I will always see the games as more than just a game. You have to consider player activity. It's not just you're playing D&D with people. Yeah. And that's what they told me. And I took their mantra to heart, because that's right. We don't see eye to eye. We don't have the same values. I'm not gonna villainize you for it. It's fine. We don't need. It's okay. Shake hands. You find your different GM. I'll find my different players. Yeah. And
I didn't say it made them a bad DM, just that they're not compatible with the party, and I guess I meant that
style, but yeah, exactly. It's incompatibility, and a lot of people take that incompatibility of like, there's an open door policy. We don't vibe. It's okay. We'll find a different group, or it's okay. It's fine. That kind of separation is like, apparently like a personal attack, and this is where I find it very frustrating, having ran for so many games. Some people take it personally when I say, oh, we're not a good fit, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, and I try to make it as painless as possible, explaining like, you will find your GMs, it's okay, I can refer you to someone, there's a really cool community over there. It feels like work actually, because I'll be referring them to another GM. Hey, I actually know a GM who actually knows this thing, and maybe you want to go to this other community. They say, oh, you don't like us now, is that what it is? And I'm like, we're just not vibing. I can't handle this kind of, when we're trying to collaborate. I'm not here to murder you. You think I'm out here to murder? You want a killer GM? There's right over there. Not me. I mean, I kill people in my games, but it's a rewarding death. And it's usually Cthulhu that's the problem, or like, Eldritch, or those kinds of things where it's horror and it's consented.
Alright.
Anyways.
We should probably get back to it. Where Amphobo said we did figure out a solution that wasn't killing a character, which is good.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's good. So we'll continue on from after the whole suggested answer was to kill a party member.
Yeah, that's a big no.
The best puzzle was a set of statues that responded to a reasonable action that matched their profession. I feel like that was in a different RPG story where a DM was playing with a whole bunch of new players and basically had a whole bunch of statues of their classes, and they had to do certain actions from their classes to activate the statues, and the skeletons would keep reviving in the room after a few rounds. Basically they had to keep doing, because when they were playing as players, they played a just straight up hit, and wasn't doing any actions. Like a bard wasn't using any sort of spells, was just using a rapier and things, which College of Swords does that anyway, but they have different things like bardic inspiration and stuff. But yeah, that's actually a good sort of puzzle there.
And then
One was a set of orbs that we just had to have one PC touch to teleport out. We figured it out immediately. The one that split the party into pairs was a series of symbolic objects where the players couldn't communicate. It had cryptic clues. We just randomly interacted with these objects in several different ways without additional hints or help. It was not intuitive, and I don't think anyone understood the DM's logic after solving it. Somehow we solved it pretty quickly. Then again, some you could just brute force through sometimes.
Tomb of Annihilation. Yes, I think a lot of dungeon crawls. I would not be surprised if it was in Tomb of Annihilation, in a Chult module, Tomb of Horrors, or Out of the Abyss. I think a lot of those dungeon crawls. Or Sunless Citadel.
I don't remember a puzzle like that in the Tomb. No, wait, it was I think you're thinking probably of a earlier Tomb of Annihilation. I'm thinking of the 5e Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah, but it came from a previous book.
Yeah, it came from a previous book, so I could be wrong on many levels because, Fraser, I know you've played D&D longer than I have. You've been with Wayne.
Tomb of Horrors.
Tomb of Horrors, yeah.
And then the finale.
Before that. Well, the biggest issue was that the 4 players were split into pairs, and the pairs couldn't talk to each other or to the other 2 players.
The amount of there's like, oh my god.
Okay. You haven't played much longer than I have.
This is a this is a feeling of like a GM who's trying so hard to mask the solution, or like trying it so hard to, like the mystique, or like you can't find this out. I'm gonna make it difficult by removing communication and stuff like that, which is difficult when one of the major things involving a TTRPG is actual communication. So it's like,
yeah,
okay.
But then again, don't get me wrong, having a bit of split the party sort of thing for a riddle thing that doesn't have any sort of depth to it isn't actually too bad. You could split 2 party members away from the group who don't actually usually communicate with each other or work together that well to try and work together through a certain puzzle. That as a sort of thing could actually work towards creating a better cohesion between the party. But we'll go back to the finale of this.
Yeah.
With the finale being fighting Kanye West and a rip-off of the Tower of God crown competition. This meant I sat with a crown on my head doing nothing for over half the fight. I did this because I was by far the most experienced player and understood what I was volunteering to do. This was also the only fight. We had full HP and almost all of our spells for the one multi-phase fight. We were in 0 danger.
That was rough. I love that there's when we left the game together. Okay. I hope at the end of it, you were allowed to give feedback. One of the things is like, in my early days, even now, I still have poor combat. I wouldn't say poor, but it still needs work. I'm not good with combat from the get-go. I'm more of a storyteller narrative, and there will be challenge combat. I like using environmental hazards, and it took years to get to that point. So if this is a newbie DM, I'd be more forgiving. But I hoped at the end of it, he was like, so guys, how was the game? I know it might be a bit rough, but happy to take feedback. If there was no window for feedback or check in with the players, that to me is a big oops. Because even
there is one thing. I do have one question. Did the DM set up because if I believe it was a one shot, right?
Yeah, it was a one shot.
Did he explain to you how it was going to be at first a bunch of riddles and then near the end there's going to be a bunch of one-on-one fights? Because that could have dictated how you create your characters. He didn't ask for feedback and didn't really take any feedback. He was convinced he went hard.
Okay, yeah, that to me is already... he needs work. He needs to work on his skills of communication, in a sense that, with the one thing, as a DM, like earlier DMs, like Beth, it was painful for me. Feedback's painful. I'm not gonna lie. It's painful when you worked hard and like, oh, this is a cool dungeon. Oh, I made a cool monster, and your players complain about it. It's gonna be a gut punch, but you have to take it on the chin, because it's their experience at the end of the day. And if they say it wasn't fun, it wasn't cool, yeah.
No, it was mainly pre-gen characters and no explanation above a series of rooms for a competition.
That from the get-go, you want, like, I know some GMs want the mystery, like you'll find out when you play the game, but as much as possible, which I'm thankful of, ad break, just so you know, thank you for ad break, blah blah blah, 39 seconds, 37, 36, 35. Okay, while we're in the middle of ad break, can you get me soda? I'm thirsty.
Already ahead of you.
Thank you. Can you open it? Oh my god, it's dripping on my dress. My dress! Ad break. No one can see the drips on my dress. It is fine. Thank you.
They can see the drips on mine.
I'm back. Hello, welcome back. We still have 8 seconds into the ad break. So.
Yeah, it's a general thing. It doesn't.
And the ad break has ended. Your community is back. No ads in Korea. Hey, cool. Just to see the drips on your clothes. Just in time to see the No! It was Coke. It was Coke. We didn't do anything else. I swear to God. I guess like the other feedback I would say is like, one thing I appreciated with the resurgence of 5e is the consideration of, especially with community games, Adventures League. I know a lot of people say like, oh, Adventures League is pretty sweaty. One of the things I like is from the get-go, they give you a blurb synopsis of what the module is, and they give you a rating from combat, roleplay, and puzzles or exploration. They give you that rating. So the players already know what they're expecting when they get into a game.
Yeah.
So example, Bane of the Tradeways. They'll give you a blurb of how it's in Flan. You're going to be dealing with basically in politics between the monster races and the bandits, as well as basically the human soldiers who are kind of like, they have a problem with the monster races. So from the get-go, the roleplay is 3 out of 5. Combat, it's gonna be rough because you're gonna have to choose a side between fighting guards at levels 1 to 4. If you're level 4, you're fine, but if you're level 1, whoo, you're gonna be fighting like captains with armor, or you're gonna fight against the bandits, which is just as rough. They have a bandit captain. So they already rate the combat, they already rate the roleplay, they already rate the exploration. So that's what I appreciate with the format with Adventures League. They have those. So I'm back after dinner. Nikaon. You read it.
Nikaon nabamo duha?
He asked, did we both eat already? I ate dangerous pizza. He's been eating pizza on the side.
I'm still eating pizza.
So, I would just...
We also have buffalo wings as well.
It's spicy. Super spicy. But yeah. From Phobo's story, it's like, this is the makings of people who like, this is sad because it's still 5e. Newbie mistake is that, hatagi is give. Hatagi. Give. It means give. He said, ngayo, can I have some? I said,
yes,
hatagi.
Yes, you can have some.
So,
if we can just throw it through the computer and share it there.
Yeah. So, this is my feedback to like my experience as one EDM, transition to a lot of systems and still exploring a lot of cool systems. You should always from the get-go, starting from like what the players can expect in your campaign, how much of the roleplay, how much of the combat. If it's one shots, break it down so that they already know, okay, we're gonna be having combat, we're gonna be having lore, we're gonna be having that. If you want to hide it in an air of mystery, that's fine. But to the point where you're barely explaining everything and it felt so lackluster. And then you said he said he went hard. I think he really needs a reality check, and the fact you don't get feedback is very concerning. You should allow for feedback at the end of it. at the end of every session. It's like, before it, here are the expectations, and already set up the players for success in terms of games. Like, hey, this is gonna be combat. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be like this. Here you go. Here's the setup. Set it up on that, and then they go through the gauntlet, and then at the end of it, so how is it? Because you're not perfect. You don't expect that your game's gonna be perfect. I'm always gonna expect like my games are not gonna be great. Yeah.
I worked in customer service for a few years. The biggest thing I learned was if you want your customer to be satisfied, you need to help them to set reasonable expectations and then exceed them.
Yes, you deliver on that, and like you work with what the players have.
Yeah.
With their player knowledge, and like if it's like especially in the case of underutilizing an experienced player, to me that is a crime. To put him on the side and not have him play, like that is a crime. Just because they played more doesn't mean they don't get to like, oh, you're gonna ruin the game, so I'm gonna put you on the side. Use them as the rules lawyer on the side. Have them use their knowledge to be like, oh, I'm gonna try to cast a spell. What was the spell again? Oh, right, yeah. Because like, oh, like one instance, shout out to Dark that day. He was like saying, oh no, you're gonna kill me in this round. I look at my cards. That's info to me as somebody with a hand. You're giving me answers. I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna do it my way. Oh, you actually gave me a great idea. I will do this.
Then again, be careful if they're a blue or a red player who is just gonna be like, no, I'm goading you to attack someone else. Or
yeah, is it?
Or a blue player is just gonna, okay, bounty field.
Yeah, the different stories.
Because if it depends on the wordplay and how charismatic they are in telling that. Because there have been times where I'm just like, I got a board wipe, and everyone just doesn't play anything. It's like, okay.
No, you scared them.
And it's scary because in my white, black, red deck, I have a total of 5 board wipes.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We did a lot of explosions last year. I meant in like cardboard crack, in the context of cardboard crack. But
Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, so for me, use the experienced players to your advantage. Like, they will know combat. Show a really cool fight with like no holds barred, attack that guy, and then see how like the players will learn from him. Like, oh, I actually used my reaction to do this, and this could be a teaching moment for players, because the experienced player will already know what to do in their action economy. As a reaction, I do this. As a bonus reaction, I do that. They're like, oh my god, we got bonus reactions, we got this. Oh my goodness, and you give the spotlight to the experienced player who knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and the other thing is like having a rules lawyer to help the DM who has to keep track of everything else in the world. Having someone who can keep track of the rules, or at least a general basis of most of the rules, to help you whenever you feel stuck as a DM is actually can help very greatly. Because I know that at the table, Denmark has asked me a few times about 5e rules and stuff like that, and it's just like,
be open to not knowing everything. That's the biggest DM thing. You may be the DM, but you don't know everything, and use the experienced players to be like, hey, can you help me out with this real quick? And that's great. That allows for like a working relationship. You don't punish people for knowing. It's a lot of, and then like one thing that Kuya Maki, shout out to Kuya Maki, who like he's an older brother of mine in spirit and all that. He told me metagame isn't wrong. No. Like the players knowing that, it's how you deal with it as a DM. With like the players will know. They have read the book, they will check the resources, they will know things. You tell them you are allowed to know this. Your character, on the other hand, will still have to figure it out. And I love that wording about it.
Exactly, that's how it should be. Now the hardest thing for some metagamers is that they can't separate themselves from the character in terms of knowledge. So sometimes the DMs have to change a few things to basically throw them off, which I have read some RPG horror stories where he's tweaking the monsters, he's making this so we can't do anything, we can't use any of our knowledge for anything. And it's just like
That's where it becomes like that's a you problem, because
Ex-
I'm okay with you knowing this.
exactly.
How does your character know this? Oh, if they use it a backstory thing. Oh, I've been a wizard who ex millennia who worked in Candlekeep.
Yeah.
I will use my lore knowledge. Okay, Candlekeep, you say the specific book. Roll for Arcana.
Yeah. Which one is it that I've done quite a few times? Waterdeep. I've gone through Waterdeep 3 different times, and I know Waterdeep has 4 different ways of how they do things because they have their seasons, which basically mitigates how the campaign book runs. And like, yeah, I've played it a few times. I've played 2 of the different seasons and have gone through to the end. Now, using metagame knowledge to sort of plod the story along, if things get sort of halted, can help sometimes for the DM, like who gets troubled with sort of trying to guide the story along, but the players are like, let's do this, and the story doesn't move anywhere because they're not getting to the hook, and the hook just waits there sometimes for some GMs. And that's where sometimes a little bit of metagame knowledge to sort of, okay, let's check out this place, even if your character has to go off alone, to sort of grab that hook and be like, let's do this now, let's move on.
You reward that kind of knowledge. You don't want to punish it. That's the thing I kind of try to do with my games. If there's an experienced player, they already know like what it's like to fight like this certain monsters. I'll be like, okay, does your character have this experience? They like, I always try to tie it as much as possible to their character background.
Exactly.
And if they find a very smart way to do it, because I've been through Pathfinder, they will find a way. A racial trait, a background trait, a class trait. They're gonna find a way of like, oh, they literally have, I was bullied as a child. I will get stats for being bullied. Like, I was like, okay, fine. That's why I know, like, I've been hardened with my strength. Okay, you worked your sheet. This is great. And because of this, you know this bully is like the villain. Okay, you made it your story. Good point. Fine. Goddamn. But also, can I just say, Fraser, like, you really sound like Jasper, and I appreciate that, because like everything you've been saying is like, it really reminds me of the workshop that he's doing. Like Ray said, you as the GM have to treat it like customer service. You want to make your players happy, but not only that, you want to make yourself happy too.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you so happy.
Fraser, I'm obviously getting old. I need to head to bed. Have a great night, you guys.
Good night.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Have a good night,
it is late.
Yeah.
I do need to sleep early, so I have work tomorrow. So that's why I'm enjoying this podcast right now with my husband. But yes, I guess this is a good segue now, since after that, I guess the moral of the story for DMs. I guess, what are your takeaways on how can GMs improve?
So there are a few ways for GMs to improve. Definitely listen to the feedback of your players. That is definitely one of the rules. And don't throw away their feedback. Just listen, see if things do need to change a bit or come to a middle ground. But sometimes don't just fold and change. It could be something so out there and completely different to your playstyle, where you can be like, look, this is my playstyle. I'm more of a storyteller DM or a combat DM or a bit of both, and you're a player who wants full combat or you want a lot more roleplay. I might know a GM that might have a spot available for you to join into, see if you enjoy their game or stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure you said that there was a person you suggested another area too, but they got anti and started word combating or something like that.
Yeah, they took it personally, and that's the thing with these games. Like, you don't want to take it personally, and I do agree. I think I can't. I'm seeing words.
I'll bring it up.
Thank you. Sorry, my eyeballs and like.
The best from Phobo, and thank you for the heart, Fraser. Bowmaster says the best way to improve is to play under other GMs and to learn from other GMs.
Agreed. I 100%. That's shout out. I'll shout out a couple of communities that I'm a part of that I'm very
You're in
connected.
a lot of communities.
TTRPG communities specifically. Kabilang Dungeon, which is another word for the other dungeon, where we do other systems other than the usual 5e or Dungeons and Dragons systems. We encourage a lot of play styles and a lot of GMing, and there's a lot of OG DMs. Shout out to Jay, shout out to Lance, and shout out to Toby. They've been really cool. Like, find the community. I know, like, we try to do it online, but try to find a group that's really enthusiastic in trying other systems. That's the thing I really want to heavily emphasize. Go for a group that wants to try new things. So that's where I learned about solo TTRPGs. That's where I learned about the Praxis Protocol. That's where I learned. That's how I enjoyed and checked off a lot of my TTRPG list, because those people want to try those new things that I want to try too. So find your peoples, find those communities. Like I was also part of like a lot of playhouses. Like one of the things is that you can join in is like there's Discord servers for systems. Like despite my struggles with City of Mist, they really have cool books and they really have cool lore, and they're really working and trying to help people understand. They have communities about it. So City of Mist Discord's really good. There's also people who do community games like Finals game, and Mr. Trash, who does Cyberpunk. There's also in Lancer RPG Interpoint Station. So finding those groups and just like, don't be a forever GM. Try to put yourself as a player as well. That's why I had a 5:5. I ran 5 campaigns. Asterisk. Those were mini campaigns. There were others, but I at least did 5 mini campaigns and 5 mini as a player, just so that I can experience putting a balancing act of putting myself in a player's shoes, trying really cool GMs, and just unlearning to be like in control of everything in terms of like world building and stuff.
A point here is, some point during this year, I do plan on running a few one-shots or maybe a very mini campaign myself as a DM. Start trying to do online DM. I have done a little bit IRL.
Yeah, you did Avernus.
Yeah, going by the book is not my sort of
No, you tried your best.
Thank you, Yin. Happy New Year, Yin. Thank you so much for the 10 bits.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Yin.
Oh my god. Oh my god, Phobo. Did I see that? You ran a GM workshop for new GMs? Yes, spread the virus. Spread it. If you can share those 12 notes, like I can share you the Way of the Dude, which is what Jasper shared before. I can share the slides that Jasper had way back when, and we can trade notes. I would love to see your reading list as well, because I think workshops are cool. We should bring it back. We should do a dedicated stream for like for GM workshop. How do we I did the game mastering, like mastering the game. I did that a while back. Maybe we could do a refresher.
Yeah,
I would love that. I would love to see your reading list. Please send it to me, Phobo. I demands it if you can, please, if you're willing to share it, please. Thank you. Yes, and we're shouting out Yin. What are they doing? What are they playing? Fortnite. Yeah, let's go. I hope you had a good New Year. I miss the Philippines in terms of how loud it is. It's very quiet here. Their New Year's very quiet. It's so different. Like, you're so used to the karaoke and the loud shouting and the torotots and the cars. Here it's like, oh, it's Happy New Year.
yeah, it's very quiet here, other than a few fireworks. For the bigger stuff, you have to sort of be you have to be like in main cities such as Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane.
Yeah.
That's where they have the bigger sort of firework shows and all that. And even then, it's quieter than what Denmar's told me about.
Yeah, it's really just you guys are tame. When we Filipinos celebrate it a little bit more livelier. That's all I'm gonna say. But okay, since we're done with like I really love your takeaway by the way for like improving for GMs, and I'm just gonna piggyback on it real quick on like feedback. Communication is key, and just communication. I know that's funny saying communication is key, but like just learning how to be that person that people, your players can talk to and you can talk back. And having rules, like ground rules at least when you're on the table, really helps. Like setting up expectations, as Fraser said. It's like, here's what you can expect at my table. You like it, you can leave, no hard feelings. And being able to like navigate that no hard feelings, really, like for both player and GMs.
Yeah.
Even I myself, I will have to learn to let go of like, especially, oh, I love this group, but you know, scheduling conflicts, or they don't have that commitment that I would give if they don't give the same commitment as you.
Yeah.
Learn to let go. And don't like, it's very human to feel like, oh, I spent so much time on it. I made all this. Let it go, shelve it, move on to another group. That's how I would. This is from my experience.
It's funny because there's sometimes I have to remind you. There's like sometimes we need to throw things away.
It's so hard to throw things away. Like especially it's a good story. I'm playing it with people and then I have to let go.
Like, and the thing is, you can keep the stories. Write them down if they're already written down. Save them. Because those are your stories that you made with those people. Keep the stories. Don't just delete them. You hear about RPG stories where one person gets mad and they're the actual server host and just delete the server. And and I think it was one of the RPG stories where they had 3 years of stories, art, threads and stuff like that, and all deleted just because the host of the server got mad at the DM for one thing, and it deleted everything. Don't delete them. The stories are with you. Even if over time you do forget them, you can actually go back and read some of them. It's, like some of the things I actually do sometimes go back and read some of the VTM threads. Some of the saucy threads too, but but yeah, it's, you don't want to throw those stories away. Those stories are what you spend time with you and other people to create. Those stories have time, energy, and worth, not just to you, but to the other players as well. Maybe that one person might just not like it anymore and just ditch everything, but the stories are still there. Everyone had fun during those times, and those stories are still memorable even to these days.
Exactly. And so yeah, you know, that I guess in that way, just don't take it personally. Like, as much as possible, you can be human without having to ruin that bridge in a sense, or like having to ruin that memory with people, those good memories with people. But of course, there's the line of like, if it was a really shitty person that you really have to cut this with, that's fine. But try as much as you can to make it not too personal when you have to leave a certain group. Like, you'll always find your groups, you'll always find your players, you'll always find your GM, and I encourage it. You'll find somebody that fits your playstyle. So we're gonna do a quick segue. We'll just go, we went through what makes a bad GM. Now we're gonna go, what makes a bad player?
Whoa.
So this is, I think we said
a few things about some bad players and everything.
Yeah,
like
there was
that.
a mix of it, but we're going hard on the what makes a bad player. I have words, but we're gonna start with the actual, like, you've been, I think, 80% player.
I've been 95% player.
Okay, 95. So we're gonna take your page first. Give at least 3 that's quantifiable that make it a bad player. Do you need time to think about it?
I can tell one IRL. I would say that they were not exactly 100% a bad player, just how they reacted to things. rules lawyer type of player that's very, very strict with their rulings and everything like that. And the thing is, they taught me that I was wrong on one of the rules because of a certain thing. Because I never read through the entire player's handbook and stuff like that. There was a page that I completely missed. This player came into our table because we went down to just 3 of us. We're looking for new players. They joined us for a session, and they had the spell Thunderwave. When you read the wording, it says originate around you 15 feet. So when there's me who reads that, it's like, okay, so it originates from yourself, so basically you're the center point of the spell if it says it originates from you and 15 feet square foot around you. I read that as like, okay, you burst forth every creature that's around you, like within a 5 foot square of you, pretty much gets hit by the Thunderwave. They were very pedantic and everything like that about the rules of it being 15 foot square in front or in this direction and stuff like that. You are the origin point of like one of the corners or edges. I did not read that because I read the description from the spells themselves, not the actual page that actually has an actual listing of where the origin point is. When he pointed that out, I was like, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense and is actually better than I actually thought it was, and why I never really took Thunderwave. But then they were very aggressive on, I'm gonna need a list of all the spells that are gonna have all these fucking problems, and it's like, we can't really give you a list because it's just like that there are spells that have their wordings and stuff like that, which sort of confounding and everything like that. We don't go reading or delving into the whole Gary Gygax way of how it is actually meant to be. And he upped and left and was just like, this is a shit game. I'm not gonna be here anymore. That was a shitty way of doing it, but we just sat there and were like, well, that just happened.
Holy crap. Okay, yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, because like with the one thing I want to clarify, especially like having come from a crunchy system,
Yeah.
you need somebody who is a stickler for the rules, who know the wording. That helps with the game. But the moment they become antagonistic and they kind of undermine the DM and like the rule set and immediately make it into everything into a debate, an argument.
They made it like they felt like that all of their spells were gonna be under the threat of, this is how it is, not how you think it is. And I understand from that point. I do actually understand. And I did get the spell wrong. I accept that because that's how one grows. They actually learn. And the thing is, I didn't read every page of the book, so I completely missed that page on how spells actually work and how it tells you about origin points. I didn't need to read that page because in the spell description of all the spells, it tells you how it's run. It's like, okay, 60-foot line. Okay, that's pretty direct. It's a 60-foot line. You are at one end. The 60 feet is at the other end. That line, straightforward. Cone, 15-foot cone. Okay, from you, triangle. Pretty much. Cube at 30 feet, stuff like that. It was Thunderwave that had the description which was confusing. Because it said, if I remember correctly, unless they changed it on the actual thing.
Yeah.
But very early on, I read it as, and don't get me wrong, I do have dyslexia. I could be reading it wrong every fucking time.
So it was Thunder Wave, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna grab D&D Beyond.
Yeah, Thunder Wave spell. So I have the 5th edition one. It says, Wave of Thunder's force sweeps out from you. Each creature's in a 15-foot cube originating from you.
Okay, so that is written differently how I kept reading it.
Each creature in a 50-foot cube originating from you. Yeah.
Actually, no, that is actually how I actually read it, because out from you, so you are
The source.
like the source, the center. When it comes out from, when they say it comes out from you, it kind of feels like, okay, you are the center point.
Ah.
Okay, you.
Yeah, thunderclap is not an around you AOE, it's an in front of you AOE. You're literally clapping your hands.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. I never read online how it's actually supposed to be. This is how I've read it. This is how multiple of us have read it. I actually asked one of my friends who has played since 1st edition for, I think it's like 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
He read it and was like, yeah, that's 15 foot around you. That's all the 5 foot squares around you. That's...
Yeah, like this. So it's still coming from you. It's your tip.
Yeah, that's how it's meant to be played.
Yeah.
But how me and many others, we were the center.
Oh, like AOE spell.
That's how we read it. Is we were the center. It pushes out from you in all directions.
No.
That's how we read it at the time, and not just me. I did actually ask many other people. How do you read this? And this is the actual ruling. And then they're not gonna see it on the screen.
No, they can't.
Nah.
Tried.
Yeah. But basically, I asked many people. This is how they read it. They read it the exact same way as I did it. But then you go online. This is how it's at. And there was an actual thing where it's like, because I had one of the very first few books of like the player's handbook. It's one of the later on ones that they actually changed the wording of it for later prints.
Exactly. So, anyways, so that's one of your rulings where the rules lawyer becomes very antagonistic and makes it everything a debate. And to me, that was very like he immediately generalized the entire game because it didn't go his way. That to me is like, whoa, that's so entitled.
And the thing is that it's like, okay, I see that I am wrong here. Let's continue with playing the game with that rule. Then he stops the game and it's just like, I need a list of all the spells that use have changed rulings of, and it's just like, there's no changed rulings. This is just how we read it. But the problem is that they're very confrontational on how they do things and everything.
Confrontational. Those are the keywords. Antagonistic. It's like most rule lawyers, the moment like few things is like immediately they're always asking for clarification. They're not. One of the things as GMs, they feel like it's an attack to them when somebody goes. Like a lot of people have that personality where it feels like they're going against a DM, but most of the time it's clarification. Isn't the spell actually like this? And the moment you collaborate with them in that small window of checking the knowledge, or like clarifying with them, this is actually how we do things here.
Yeah. That
ends the conversation right away. But the moment they start pushing and being antagonistic, that's when it becomes really like...
Now, I myself, yes, I'm a rules lawyer. I do very much that. I'm like, isn't it meant to play like this, or is it meant this? But I am a rules lawyer who's like, if the GM says it's this way, I stop. There are a few times I do kind of overstep my boundaries, and the GM, DM does have to tell me. They make the rules, not me. Don't step in on that sort of stuff. I'm like, right, yep, that's my bad. And then I usually sit back for quite a while. But that's the thing. I am a rules lawyer. Yes, I do have bad tendencies. Stop me. I'm not gonna get mad. It's one of the things that needs to happen sometimes. It's like sometimes you overstep a boundary. Okay, step back. Let everyone else have fun. Don't try and step in with the rules until they ask. What's the second one?
I would actually it's in line to that, where it's a mix of like Fraser mentioned a main character energy.
Yes.
To the point that it's disrupting. That to me, especially when I'm in the DM seat, so this is all coming from DM experience. When you're a player and the way you disrupt is all the attention immediately. You have to react to every nuance. I haven't even finished painting the scene. There's always a commentary. There's always this, like, they have to be loud. They have to interject with every joke. It gets to the point where it's me, I'm funny, haha, it's me, I'm quirky, or like it's all directed the attention towards them.
Yeah.
Not allowing the world to like set the scene, set the tone, and like there are times like there would be a player that throws a comment and I would laugh, and that's fine. We roll with it. But it gets to the point where the main character energy, it's like they push everyone out of the way. Everyone's a side character. It's gonna be my choice. It's gonna be my thing. The moment it becomes like what Fraser mentioned, a solo game, when it's not intended to be like, you have to be collaborative. It becomes a problem when you want all the spotlight to yourself. And I know a lot of ways to redirect that kind of energy. I understand, especially it's like, oh, I've never had this kind of spotlight before, or I'm fulfilling my fantasy of playing this character that actually gets all the attention. It's really good in roles, yada yada. Okay, but I always redirected them. Hey, there's somebody who might actually need your help, or hey, can we go through their scene for a bit, or like immediately full stop. What are you doing? It's like breaking that immersion of, what are you doing? We're in a game.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk? Oh, the one major thing, the segue from main character energy, the other kinds of disruptors, where they have their own little world. They're not in the game. You're putting all that attention and energy in the game, and they're just on their phone, or they're just doing something else, and then they look up and then, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
Or they're laughing by themselves because their attention's elsewhere, or they're doing something else. The disruptors are the ultimate like pain players that I'm like, do I have your attention? It's either the attention's on themselves or the attention is somewhere else. And I'm like, jingle jangle, jingle jangle.
Now, in one of the more recent IRL ones, I was that bad player. I was looking through.
No, no, it's fine.
No,
okay.
yeah, but in a sense, there was already the rule on the table where don't get distracted by your phone. I was distracted by my phone trying to look at different type of tools and weapons and stuff like that, but I was drifting away from the actual game, which did cause a little disruption. It can happen, but don't make a habit of it, I would say.
It happens. You're human, you're tired, or like your attention's elsewhere, and you as a GM, the way you want to handle it is like, try to gently coax them to get their attention, like, hey, we're here, present, jingle jangle kind of situation, where it's like, we're here, I need your decision right now. Especially like put stakes on it, where it's like, hi, I need your decision because there's going to be a consequence if you don't make a decision right now. I'm going to redirect it somewhere else. You were inactive. I will treat your character didn't do anything in that scene when he could have done something in the scene. So that kind of consequence, you want to play it out to the player and give that urgency of, I need your actions now. So that puts them on the, oh, I have to be here. Brain floating away, reattaches back to their brain. Kind of thing.
And there's a difference between this being IRL, where people will be on their phones. That's going to be a disruption. Now, for online, it's a bit more different because you don't have those players' faces or their motions keeping you enwrapped or enthralled into the game. So most people...
I actually find like online games are a lot easier to deal with than IRL. IRL is like so much anxiety that comes with it, but with online it's like you can call their attention, hey, I need your action right now, sorry, can you repeat that? And then I repeat it, and that's fine. Like I pick up voice tones and if their interests and all that.
Yeah.
And when they're gone, I'm like, hello, earth to person, they come back. Like, it's fine. Like, I find it easier. I don't need the face.
I think, like, with online, they understand that they are interested in the game, but they also do know that it's, like, not their scene, they're not in it, they'll have a little something on the side playing. But most times they'll have, like, the volume down to sort of still listen. Some do get delved into their games. What's up?
No, I was checking. There's a list here of like the problem players where I'm summarizing a lot of our conversations. So, one of the biggest things, which is a similar tool to how you improve on yourself as a GM, is communication. You just communicate. I don't like using the word problem player. It's something to be worked on. Just because they did a bad behavior doesn't mean they're bad all throughout. It's something that can be improved. So like with rules lawyers, you can use their enthusiasm for rules to redirect their energies to help you with the rules checking. And with a debate, you still know, like, let's not debate on this. We can park it somewhere else and we can have this conversation later on. For now, let's just continue the game. So it's like there is a lot of like communicating to be had when it comes to these kinds of players. The one other type of player that I also have a problem with is like this is a good list. This is from Cottage of Everything, so they're really good. There's this. I don't know if you've experienced this. It's the people who are playing together because they're friends. This D&D. Oh, this is a as a reaction podcast TTRPG space where we do a lot of talking about certain topics. Howdy from Norway. Howdy. We're currently going through what makes a player like a. It's a weird term to say bad player, but like, what are the things that can be improved on as a player? We just went through like instances and experiences of like GMing that needs to be improved on, and then now we're going towards like players. So we just went through like how to handle a rules lawyer. We also talked about how to handle a disruptor and how to handle a man, I got it.
Yeah, Arjun. This is what I actually look like.
Yeah, look at that. That's handsome. That is.
I'm not as handsome as the guy down here, but.
What do you mean? This is 10 out of 10. The picture over there.
Biased because you're my wife.
No, you're pretty. Look at that prettiness.
Or fiance at the moment because we're getting married in February.
Yeah.
But yes, welcome to the stream, Jonas McGee as well.
Warhammer lore, that's cool. I am a huge fan of Warhammer. I played Warhammer Fantasy, 4th edition. I was just nerding out about that. And 10 out of 10 would bank. Oh, that is incest, my child. No. Yeah. Never hope I get into minis. I would tell you it's a very expensive hobby. But the books are great. The TTRPGs are great. I started painting minis. Thankfully, I had friends who sold their sets at half price. But Warhammer's great. Lore's great. But yeah, we were going through another type of like what makes a bad player, or like what makes it like difficult to play with on a table that kind of ruins the experience for everyone as a DM, and this one as an 85% player. Right now, there's this. I don't.
Arjen's also asking when did we guys start dating. We started dating December 13th.
Official. That was official.
Well, that was official 2023, December 13th. Basically, our first actual date.
Cafe.
Was that a cat cafe? Yes.
Yeah, but we've been
And we went back there for our anniversary
this year.
last year.
It's 2025. Sorry, but yeah.
So basically, within a year and a bit, we are getting married as well. So
Yeah, but we've been
what is the GM's worst player?
What is Jim's worst player? That's difficult for me.
That is a tough one, depending on which different types of GMs. So there's the role-playing ones, which sort of don't very much like the heavy rules lawyers or anything like that, because it can shut down a lot of the storytelling. And then with the combat ones, you kind of you don't like the sort of main character syndrome character who tries to steal everyone's spotlight. No, that'd be another RP ones. What would it be? Combat DMs sort of thing.
I think for combat GMs, it's for combat GMs, I think it's similar. It's more of like the min-maxer. That's gonna be the problem.
There's two types of combat GMs. There's the ones that actually like it's hard against the players, min-max to hell, and we'll see where it goes. And then there's the combat ones where it's like tactics, planning and everything like that.
And I think when a player, I guess when it's a combat GM.
Jaden says loot stealing sucks. So the loot stealers from combat ones.
Yeah. Especially if it's against players. But I think just to finish the thought, you're blazing through a lot of the comment section.
Sorry.
Pause. Calm. But we'll go in terms of combat. I think a lot of people that they don't like it's more of player differences. When it's a combat player, when somebody's more of they use their stats, it's an annoyance to them if the stat is for flavor. Oh, I'm doing this experimental build. Combat DMs just go crazy. Like, why? There's like this perfect stat right here. This would have made this optimized. So like, it's a different play style, different kind of like for a role player. It might be a role player GM. It might be difficult to have a combat heavy person who just only thinks about stats instead of like interacting with the world. So again, I guess it's not the worst. It's just like not having the same play
style in a sense, which means try and find one that's good for you and stuff on that. So we can't really per se exactly say which type of player is the worst for GMs. We can say the worst type of player for everyone would be that one player who makes it worse for everyone. Like there's the I'm not allowed to actually say it on Twitch and stuff anymore, but there's the ones that like they're really aggressive towards everyone, or their advances towards one specific player, which can very much creep them out and start creeping everyone else out. Also, for some IRL ones, please take a fucking shower.
Yeah, I mean, it's just standard hygiene and just thinking about everyone else on the table, not just yourself. But hey, Mark made it. Hi, Mark. Hi.
He made it. Look at this power couple. Jonas McGee is cursed with Warhammer knowledge.
Yes. Like I mentioned earlier, as a GM, from the GM side of things, you don't punish metagaming. Let the players have that knowledge. They are just enthusiastic about TTRPG as you are. They let them know the intricacies of the lore. Let them celebrate it. Like, again, what Kuya Maki said. It's fine to metagame. It's fine for the player to have that knowledge. It's now how do the characters figure out that? And that's what motivates me a lot in terms of like, this is okay that the character knows this as long as it's in their backstory, as long as it makes sense that the player, like if the player plays a detective and uses that meta knowledge, that's super cool. I've had kids who did the detective route and did the Deadpool stuff. So and power gaming is so much worse than power gaming. That's when it's starting to cringe. And one of the things I actually wanted to bring up, I guess this is where the min-max and stuff, it's like where they kind of force their hand of like, I'm the best, I'm doing this, I'm gonna destroy this thing, like, oh, bring it, like they're challenging the DM, like, oh, make it hard for me, instead of like making it on an even playing game.
And going back very far to what Fraser said, that it's not a solo game, it's a cooperative game. You have that, if you have that one power gamer who's basically challenging the DM, it's gonna make, and they're only stated towards the combat. Everyone else who's like stated towards all rounding or more role play is gonna cop the sharp end of the stick.
And the win mentality ruins. Yeah, it's the competitiveness and the fact that the one thing I don't like about power gamers is their desire to control other players. No, this is what you do now because this is your class, and that's when I'm like, no, bad. Like that's my ultimate. I don't have problems with rules lawyers. I don't have problems with metagamers. The one thing I have is the people who feel like they need to control the actions of other players instead of letting the players make the decisions for themselves. That's a reason why it's a collaborative table. Let them make the so-called stupid decision. That's a stupid decision. Let them make it. Let them have fun. As long as it doesn't disrupt the table, let them make that so-called this stupid decision they make, and stop twisting their arm to do something else. Yeah. That's immediately like a ban hammer for me. When I see that behavior on the table, I'm like, no, we're not having control people here.
Yeah. And then just so we don't skip over, to be honest, Karen players and main character syndrome are both up there. Karen players, I think, are like part of the same. Karen is pretty much part of that main character syndrome. It's like
everything's about me.
Everything's about me. And if it's not my way, we are stuck here until I get my way. That sort of Karen, I'd be like, fuck off, Karen. Fuck off.
Yeah, and D&D is all about imagination and freedom. Exactly. That's my child right there. That's my child, RJ. That's my kid right there. And the improv is the best part of the TTRPGs. Like shutting down people's creativity is just shit. But like, buddy, you know it. Like that's the biggest ick for me. I guess that's the biggest ick. If I have that kind of player on the table, they're not gonna last there. Like, I can forgive to an extent the time commitment. Maybe you're not in the right headspace. We can reschedule for another time. But the moment you start controlling other players, the moment you go, oh, this is what you do, oh, this is what you do, oh, this is what I'm gonna do, leave. I'm not gonna entertain you. We're done. Like, the door's right there. It's like, I don't like that kind of controlling behavior because it doesn't allow for an actual group dynamic. You should, like, unless you're doing, again, there are solo TTRPGs you can go for. It's right there. It's all available in Drive-Thru RPG. You can start on those. And you can even choose the highest level if you want. If you want to make a level 20 solo TTRPG, go right ahead. But if you're playing with a group, you don't control them. The only things you can control are your own actions and reactions. Goddamn.
Yep. And Jonas McGree was cursed by Asmongold from
corrupted by Nurgle.
Yep, corrupted by Nurgle, animation on Warhammer and stuff like that. There is actually a lot of animations from Warhammer and stuff like that because it's very popular.
Yeah, it's been there since the 80s.
Like Slanesh, Nurgle, those are the two gods I know of in my head.
If that ever happened to me for my first campaign, I'm instantly leaving. Oh yeah, don't stay for those people. Just find your group.
The one rule overall that most RPG horror story people or any sort of D&D storytellers online say: no D&D is better than bad D&D.
Exactly.
But there's another caveat here. I think I said it much earlier on. It's like, if there is something bad going on, and you don't feel like it's a direct sort of attack or something like that, it's just sort of neglect or negligence and stuff like that, talk with the DM or talk with the player, see if things change. If it goes back to how it was before, then you know you're dealing with a bad DM or player. But if they actually do take on your criticism without attacking you and change or work for a middle ground, then you know that you got a good one. One that actually knows how to take a bit of criticism, knows how to bit of change, and knows how to adapt to the players or the DM around.
So, another, what do you call this? For the most part, I've been very fortunate with people I've played with. Luckily, I don't have a lot of experience with people ruining mine. That's good. There is no bad campaign, only bad players is my saying. That's good. You can have bad GMs, yeah. I think it goes both ways, as, because we're all humans, we're all complicated, we have to be very forgiving, but at the same time, that's why GMs should always start with expectations on the table, having that conversation before any game starts. Like, hey, even if you're familiar with the players already, safety tools, check-ins, hey, you guys are okay after the game, so that it helps, and you get to find out if you get to play for a while or this is it just stays at that one shot and all that. Yeah. Session 0, yeah, definitely session 0 is the way to go to handle a lot of things, and just communication. That's what communication and feedback. That's all we've been like emphasizing ever since the bad GM section. It's like just communication, just having the proper communication, being that person that that players can approach and talk to, and allowing for feedback for growth. The same goes for the player. If the player is like, here's another problem player that I have is like, they'll tell you, oh, I'm fine, this is great, and then you find out from another player, oh, they actually have a problem. They don't go to you directly when you've made it safe, like you've made it to a point where it's like, you can talk to me, but they would rather talk to player A, player B, go around the circle instead of going to you. And then you're like, of course, you being the responsible GM being like, okay, why didn't you tell me about it? Oh, because I was shy. Oh, I prefer to tell it with my players. Like, there's this partition between the GM and the player, and that to me is like, what? Like, that to me is kind of like a bit of
Yeah, I'm gonna snooze this next time.
yeah, go ahead. And that's the thing when it comes to communication. It doesn't have to, like, I know there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of like burden in terms of the GM running games, but when you put out so much and they still do that, you kind of want to question why. Like, why go to the players, especially if you have like a problem with the game and stuff, because the person that needs to fix the game, like, you're fine on it on a group setting. Like, you'll tell people, oh yeah, the game was good and stuff, and then you tell the player, oh, actually I have a problem because my character almost died. Why didn't you tell me you were uncomfortable with death, and we could have a conversation about why death is a part of the game?
Yeah.
Or if you're worried about your character, we can have a different character play there. If you're worried about your precious baby dying in a very dangerous, as I've spelled out in the expectations, there will be death in this campaign.
And the other thing is, you're playing with math rocks. It's on chance that your character will die.
Yeah, it's like, it's part of the game as well. Like, I'm not saying like your character's gonna die, you're gonna die, but it is part of the game. You can't spare everything, and like, you're gonna hinge it on a bad experience the moment, oh, if something, I went down, I dropped to 0, oh my god, that gave me so much stress. You could have told me. There was a debriefing moment. I set aside a time for us, hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
That to me is like, I hate when there's like so much setup for communication and the player still chooses a roundabout way to go about it, to tell it to the players, because they don't tell directly to the DM. That to me feels weird, because it's like, am I not safe enough for you? Then that means we can't play in the same table. Again, find your right GM for you. That it all boils down to, there are other playstyles. If you're not comfortable with me, why are you staying here? Oh no, you're a great GM, you're a great storyteller, you're great making campaigns. Okay, then why are you telling your problem about your character almost dying to players and not to me? I could have helped you reassure you that it's fine. Especially me, I do a lot of hand-holding in games. Like, Jesus.
But the one thing that people do need to know is, when you're coming into a, like, TTRPG, there's gonna, depending on which ones you're doing, because I know there's, like, ones where it's like, pretty much it's not a fight for your life sort of thing, but D&D, World of Darkness, everything like that, there's gonna be fighting. There's gonna be chances where your character will die. You are going into this with the knowledge that you do not have full control of your character's life in your hands. You leave it to the rocks in your hands. the ones that can also hurt you if you throw them on the ground and you can't find them. It's happened. It hurt. I do not like it. I'm glad it wasn't a metal one. But anyway, back on topic of that. It's like, the dice are the gods of the table. It's why I also believe in Timora, the goddess of luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the RNG stuff. It's just like there's the statistics and like leaving it up to like success and failure and embracing the failure and embracing like there could be good stories that come with death. There are good stories that come with failure. And the one thing which is I guess it's like it's more system specific, like they think it's a punishment that you fail. No, there's a fun way to spin around that failure. And the weird thing to me is like you can communicate to me about it, and then it takes me confronting that player for them to actually talk about it, which I don't like. I'd rather you come approach me and tell about it. I give you forums in which we can tell about, you know, what you feel about the game. So yeah. And wait, yes, I have a Timora cleric that's one of my favorite characters I've ever made. And then he said the better feeling as a GM is getting a player messaging you after it with inspiration for stuff going. Oh my god, the brain rot. We love that. We love that as GMs. Feed us the brain rot. Especially like, I will tell you right now, I've reconnected with my den kids after some time, and we play Sukol, which is like a colonial Philippine vampire Dark Ages game. And seeing the energy they have of just making playlists and talking about plots on how they literally did the Saintly Six. Like they did far research in the 1500s of like finding about the saints and how can they strengthen their power in the Catholic Church. They went hard on the brain rot, and I love that. And that was just after we've only had a total of like 6 sessions, and they were just like, I want to figure out how we can control the church. I want to run the church, and we love that. We love that.
About a snake fae.
Yeah.
Are you talking about like a Yuan-Ti fae sort of thing?
Like giant snake or small snake? I'm a snake. I mean, I'm a fan of Yuan-Ti. And there's like a specific race as well in Pathfinder that's snake-like with 4 arms. I don't know which snake you want to go for. Or do you want the snake-like, the one that petrifies you? Do you want a Gorgon? Because that's something possible in Pathfinder as well.
Or is it a basilisk or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. And don't separate from the GM. They love seeing that people are into the effort they put in. Exactly. It's like, put us part of it. Just because we're GMs doesn't mean, you know, we're not going to be part of that conversation. You have to be part of it. And I think one of the things as well that I have, like, this is one of the things that I actually was brought up here. It's like, the struggles I have beyond non-communicative, like the communicative players who don't communicate to me directly. They go about roundabout way. The other one is like when it's already an existing group and you're running for like an existing group. Let's say, I'm running with someone that's with a friend and stuff, and there's more connection to the player than the GM itself. Like it's not like a full stranger. So like what they do with their friend, they think is okay to do with you. Yeah. The lack of boundaries. I'm a boundaries heavy person. That's why there's session zeros, and this is too bright.
I can actually understand that because get it. I'm a fucking Australian. It's like I'm very much. I'll say it as it is. I'm gonna be very front forward. A lot of people around the world do not like that. I've encountered quite a lot of people who tend to take it the very wrong way, and it has gotten me into trouble quite a few times. I do try to hold back on it when I'm on online TTRPGs, hold back the Australian, but when I make an Australian character, that's when it comes out very much.
Yeah. Because so the problem with a lot of people that are like, they're already comfortable with their groups, is that they think the behaviors that their friends tolerate is something that somebody who is a stranger and is running a game to them is tolerated.
Yeah.
And that's why I put strong boundaries of, hey, this isn't okay and stuff. And the one thing as well, which is like a social standing of like, oh, I don't want, like, I'm gonna join this game anyway, even if this person's a shitty person. That's also like a big I understand, like, it's a weird social dynamic because I'm friends with this other group, but they still kept that crappy friend, but I don't want to ruin the social dynamic. That to me, I will never understand with players of like, there will always be more people to play with. There will always be more DMs. There will always be more places to find. It's just you had to go with a group that a lot of people have been complaining about this one player, and you still go to it's a dynamic that I guess it's more of, it doesn't make it a bad player. It's more like I fail to understand why I would use what limited time I have in this world to tolerate it, to actually run a game and expend my energy for it. So that's like, to me, that's, if you do that to your own player group, I'll say I'll shake hands and leave. That's always gonna be my I'll run for a different group if I know it's like, oh, they have this weird dynamic, toxic dynamic that I just don't want to be part of it. I'm just gonna remove myself out of it. It's that what do you call it? RP with people I don't know has made me a much better player. Session is also vibe check for sure. Yeah, I think it's just easier to do it with a stranger, but then the strangers become friends. Like with in the case of my Den Kids, I ran so much community games and I got to find out about this really cool group of people, and that's great. It's just a different feeling when it's already an established group or established clique, and they keep that best friend or that relative. Oh, it's because it's my brother. Oh, it's because it's my best friend, or it's my childhood friend. We're gonna tolerate that person, and because of that, they think they can put that kind of like horrible tolerance towards somebody who is a stranger. It's like, nah, fam, we're good.
Like I can understand, but it's also like you gotta grow from that. You can't stay stuck in that sort of idealistic or headspace for long. Otherwise, that corruption will start affecting you worse and worse, and then you're basically stuck on a sort of you kind of start feeling like you're on a leash with that person. Basically, you can't play any games without them. If you play any games without them, you don't know what you do, and you put that same sort of energy towards everyone else.
Yeah. And one of the things I like to take away here is like saying no to someone. Like, oh, I don't wanna tell them their bad behavior because it's my friend, because it's my brother, because it's my whatever. Just say no. Just put boundaries. Like, before, you don't want to bring your, sorry for the French or the Australian, don't bring your personal shit into a gaming table. Like, as much as possible. If you have an issue with this person, could you not bring it to a stranger who's just trying to paint you a horror world, or like just trying to run D&D with you every week? They have to deal with that person's personality and bullshit. And if you already know it from the get-go, why bring it? Why bring it to the table? She said. No!
I have corrupted her.
No, shite.
Shite.
But yeah, it just, if you know this person's a problem, it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with it personally. Or if you can't deal with it, why bring it to a stranger's table? Why bring it to the gaming table when everyone's just trying to have fun? That to me is the biggest, like, I love that the cottage of everything brought this up, because a lot of people don't realize you're playing with human beings. There will be personal stuff. It cannot be avoided. But one of the problems that was brought into is when you tolerate that shitty person and bring it to the hobby space, knowing fully well other people will have to deal with it. If you tolerate that shit, other people don't have to. So it's like, that to me is the biggest problem, when people don't notice, or like they're letting other people deal with the tolerance, and it becomes like a dramatic thing that, you made it personal because you're not letting this person play D&D. This person's a shitty person. He's like all encompassing, not just the rule lawyers, they're the main character, they're the Karen, they're disruptive, they're power gaming. I'm not spending my 4 hours of what I could be playing with other people with this person.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like,
so what's the next on the list or anything like that?
I think that was the last one, which is actually good. Which is good takeaways. Though, Fobo gave me the list. Yay! Okay. That is, I guess.
We might do that list for the next podcast. podcast.
No, the readings, yeah. Oh, we're gonna have another one?
Yes, we're gonna have another one, but it will probably be in a different. We'll be back at the other place.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I guess this is the summary takeaway. It's Rummy. Wiggling.
Rummy just like slowly coming down. You can hear the claws on them.
Yeah. We need another one for the shirt. Actually, I'll make this easier for you guys.
Fuck off.
Someone, we can do a community build, or we can just.
There was a community challenge, but there was the singular one.
Before, don't worry, we'll do this as a teaser. But before we distract people, we want to do a short takeaway of, we've listed out a lot of things for the bad GMs and the bad players. But for the bad players specifically, what are the ways that they can improve from said behavior? Takeaways from what you've mentioned. What are the takeaways that the players can improve on?
So, players can improve on is cooperation with the rest of your group, and that's not just the players, it's the players and the DM. You got an idea? Let your DM know. As Denma said before, she loves it when you talk and everything like that about ideas for your character or the story. And there is a puppy looking at us.
Oh,
He's been asleep all day, so no, we can't bring him. We can't pick him up or show him, so you're just not allowed to pick him up. But yeah, the cooperation with your players, but also something I've learned as a player who creates quite a few solo characters is let the other players know that it is a solo type of character, but you plan on trying to bring them into the rest of the group, and you want to have an idea of, like, whilst you're creating a character, traits for them for the other characters to actually connect with, and then bring you in, or you bring them in. It's something I've learned from making quite a few solo characters, ones that didn't connect with the other characters, which was Samus and VTM. Kind of doesn't really connect too well with the other players, is very sort of in his own headspace, but then again, he's a fucking human now. He can't do fucking shit. He's a human. But yeah, I would say that's one of the main things is cooperation. You don't want to be a solo all the time. Learn to ask for help. Learn to ask questions. And have the room for improvement. Ask other players from time to time what they think of your character, and if there's anything that you should sort of improve on, or how they want to connect with your character, or how you want to connect with their character, so you can actually communicate with them on things. That would be the main stake. Definitely the grounding of rules, which is a session 0. And when you're going through sessions, and if something comes up, 5 minutes, bring back those rules. That definitely is one thing, which then will be like, okay, so the rules are enforced, not just a side thing. Because I do know that there are sometimes people who get the session 0, but then they still do their thing and nothing happens. Reinforce the rules. But yes, and then the third thing is, I think it goes with the first one, is basically during character creation, all the players should talk with each other on what they want to build, if they want to connect to each of the characters or something. Because I'm very introverted, I tend to make that solo character and then try and integrate it with the rest of the group, because it takes a lot of time for me to warm up with everyone else. But from what I know of, there have been quite a few people who have actually liked the character because they kept following the story or bringing people into the story and everything like that. So yeah, it's a toss up with the solo stuff, but I gotta learn to step away from that habit. I have a very bad habit of it. How many characters now are very soloistic?
No, I mean, I will just as a caveat, there's nothing wrong with solo players, and like with how you intended it, there's still a lot of workarounds with the group. Like you established your solo, but you're still working with the group. It's just your plot line is taking a lot longer to resolve, and it's taking a different group as well. So it's like a lot of people have their own individualistic thing, which is very World of Darkness-y. And then just I want to bring up as I'm talking and complimenting about your soloist thing, and don't feel like it's a bad thing. It's not bad to create a soloist character. It's okay, especially when it comes to systems like World of Darkness. It encourages individualism, having your own separate desires and goals that are different from the others. Like it's very selfish in that sense. Mark said, while I'm giving compliments, Vetra has always been really cool to roleplay with, especially very different characters than what I run, so it meshes well. So you're actually making good characters. See, take it from Mark. As long as you're open to the yes end, the DM can work with you to guide you. Exactly, you've been the yes end, and it's a yes, and how about this? That's you, and how about we go ham? That's it. That's him all the time. I'm like, okay, because like, let it be known, I didn't expect for the Second Inquisition to be part of the storyline. That's really, and they blazed through it in Arc 3. So I'm like, fuck. So just don't take it too hard that it's a bad thing that you're separate from the group, because you always make it a point to go back to the group anyways, and your sacrifice has been for said group. So in a way you go saying like, oh, I'm not doing it for the group, but I still remember your character notes. Everything's for the group, everything's for the safety of the group, and trying to protect everybody and trying to do the sacrifice shit. So
I guess people could say I have a hero complex.
Yes, when it comes to characters, so it's really nice it's fun to knife with as a World of Darkness team. It's like,
Probably one being Rayla, she knows she's only good at one thing, and she does that one thing well.
yeah, and that's good. Like, you know, it's a specialist.
She knows her spot. She knows. She knows to leave everything else to other players.
Yeah, it's and even your child says I'm like Vetra when it comes to character making. So you're not alone. You're not alone in this.
It's basically, I'm just saying it's not a bad thing, but you do need to think of the other players.
Yeah, and
because I know that when people are first starting out, they kind of make that solo character, but they don't think of how to go with the group.
Yeah, that's why I always call Vetra edgelord. I have no problem with an edgelord character. They make great backstories.
The thing is, I actually like a lot of edgelord backstories. Yes, it can actually go very edgy, but the thing is that it's like you gotta think about it. They really love their character building, their development for their character. The problem is when it comes to some edgelords, they create all this story for their character being so badass and everything for the story. They forget that there needs to be a story forward for growing.
Yeah, and the reluctant team player is a great trope, so you actually do that. So I guess my takeaway for players to improve, like, this is coming from a DM who's like a community DM. Communication, just communicate. We're not against you. We're not trying to kill your player. We're not trying to steal the spotlight from you. Work with us. Communication, it goes both ways. I will communicate with you my boundaries and expectations, and you tell me if you're enjoying or not, and we adjust accordingly. That's just it. Yeah. Talk to me. Give me your 10-page backstory and I will read it. Like that.
I think that's another problem that matters with me. I don't make a big backstory. I make
notes.
I make a
cliff notes.
Make a few dot points and probably a paragraph.
And then the thing is, I ask follow-up stories, and then I just, so they did this. Here, I'm gonna add some lore, sprinkle. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's like I create a very short backstory so that bits and pieces can be added in that the DM can ask about, or ask, like, say, does your character know anyone from the backstory, or anyone you want to add in for the backstory, and give names. That's when you can start adding a few extra bits that you wanted for your character in the backstory. But I keep it short and simple and sweet, so the DM has already something quick to play with, can already put it into most worlds, and then they can create the places, and we can add that into the character's backstory of the names of the places.
Be careful giving Deadmine NPC. What do you mean? It's great. It's great for me.
The funny thing with Demma is she put in a few throwaway NPCs. I'm like, no, they're staying here.
I've tried. No worry, I dangle a lot of NPCs to them. Some of them I'm like, okay, and then oh my god, they're staying now. And some NPCs get even richer with player interaction, which I'm thankful of.
I think you said, like, with the first VTM one, they after the first interaction with Becca, she was basically forgotten and left.
Yeah, because no one wanted to hang out with a gang girl that was pissy all the time, and that makes sense. She was the token bish, and you don't want to deal with a token bish. And now she's like more nuanced. She's a nuanced token bish. But yeah, besides the point, yes.
So wait, tell us the future story of her.
No. That's spoilers. You guys can catch it once we pick up on VTM again. I've posted an interest check, so we'll see. But yeah, I guess just a close up for all the things, as we've talked about. Like, I hate the word bad. It's just, I guess they have subjectively, they have their behaviors could use some work. Their mentality could use some work. And the thing with these is that we kind of want to leave this behind and improve on ourselves.